Chapter 1428. The blunt and decisive rejection caused the atmosphere to plunge below zero. The smile on Zhou Wu's face also stiffened. He'd noticed Yi Zichen's injuries on his way here. It was very heavy. Naturally, he didn't think that Yi Rong would let the Bai family off just because of a few words. He was already prepared to negotiate with the other party, but he didn't expect Yi Rong to be so decisive. She didn't even give him a chance to say a second word before sealing off all possibilities. Letting the Bai family off was impossible. Even though Yi Rong didn't say it out loud, Zhou Wu could hear it from her firm tone. "Star Lord Yi, watch your words," the divine arbiter sternly rebuked. "Who do you think you are? How dare you spout nonsense in front of me?" Without another word, she fired a beam of starlight at the divine arbiter. This attack was filled with murderous intent. The starlight was aimed at the divine arbiter's vitals. The other almighties couldn't help but stare in shock. The Lord of 7 Stars was too powerful. They attacked without saying a word. They didn't put the God Emperor's estate in their eyes at all. As the starlight streaked past, the God Emperor took action and created a watery curtain in front of the divine arbiter. As he devoured the starlight, his expression became extremely unsightly. This was a blatant slap to his face. He did not take him, a God Emperor, seriously at all. Lord of 7 Stars. Lord God Emperor. Their eyes met, and Yi Rong did not back down in the slightest. She met the God Emperor's dark gaze directly, her eyes filled with indifference. On the star altar, the Masters of the Stars were all sweating for Yi Rong. Even though Yi Rong's strength made them especially excited, the person standing here was the God Emperor, the Emperor who controlled the entire God race. Association of Sages. Chao Feng. Inwardly, Zhou Wu ground his teeth. He refused to believe that a mere Lord of 7 Star would dare act so impudently and disrespect her. He didn't believe that Chao Feng hadn't instructed him to do so. At that moment, Zhou Wu noticed out of the corner of his eye that Yi Zichen was absorbing starlight into his body. As someone who possessed imperial celestial fate, his understanding of starlight was even deeper than Bai An's. From the starlight falling from the river of stars, he could roughly determine the composition of this starlight. The starlight of the 7 stars. The Big Dipper was the main star system among the many stars, and the starlight contained within it was several times stronger than ordinary starlight. Without any sort of adjustment or conversion, the energy directly entered Yi Zichen's body. Even if he was an ordinary Star Lord, he wouldn't be able to withstand this kind of starlight, let alone a normal person. The Milky Way was not much different from the human world. There was also an emperor in the Milky Way, which was the Myrtle Imperial Star. The auxiliary stars and fated stars belonged to the king stars, while the other stars were like subjects under their rule. The Big Dipper, the main star, was like the commander of the people. When Yi Zichen told him about the method of transcendence, Zhou Wu had suspected his identity. Now that he had the Big Dipper starlight, he was definitely one of the king stars. Considering how much Shui Yang and the others valued Yi Zichen, this youth. If it wasn't a fated star, then it had to be one of the more important auxiliary stars. In short, he had to have information about the Emperor Star. Then when Yi Zichen mentioned the method of transcendence, could it be that it was the Emperor Star's will? Perhaps no one would have guessed that Zhou Wu would be able to deduce so much just from the starlight entering his body. Moreover, he was already extremely close to the truth. Lord of 7 Stars, you truly are the leader of the stars. Back when the 7 stars descended, the God Emperor's estate didn't receive your favor. Truly is a great loss to me. Zhou Wu broke the deadlock between their gazes. He chuckled, as if trying to ease the tension. This emperor is also well aware that this blind subordinate has injured your noble son. For this, I am willing to pay an appropriate price as compensation. Furthermore, I can try to restore your son's severed arm and damaged eye. I only hope that you'll take a step back and let the Bai family live. How about it? No. Yi Rong didn't hesitate. I will naturally heal my son's injuries. There's no need for you to worry. This by family. I'm going to destroy it. Yi Rong, don't be too arrogant. The God Emperor is giving you face, so don't push your luck. This woman was determined to destroy the Bai family. Even after the God Emperor said this, she still refused to budge. Whether it was out of anger or fear, Bai Mingli couldn't help but curse. Face is earned by oneself, not given by others. I, Yi Rong, don't need face, nor do I need it. If I say I'll destroy your entire clan, I'll do it. If you don't believe me, why don't you try? As soon as she finished speaking, Yi Rong turned to the star altar and shouted, Lord of the Stars! Present! Shouted the star altar's tens of thousands of lords of the stars. In the blink of an eye, the river of stars began to shine brightly. Bai Mingli had been so aggressive just a second ago, but now he was completely dejected. He gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with desolation and despair. Then what do you want? It was Bai Haoyu who injured your son. The Bai family can give him to you, and Bai Yulong, we can give him to you as well. What else do you want? Do you really have to be so ruthless? Bai Haoyu's hand trembled. He was more than willing to take this calamity for the clan. But Bai Mingli's words made him feel as if he'd been abandoned by the clan. The desolation he felt was indescribable. That's right, I want to be ruthless. What about it? Said Yi Rong. The God Emperor is right here. Does your Society of Saints not even care about the God Emperor's estate? Roared Bai Mingli. When did we ever care about the God Emperor's estate? He just usurped someone else's celestial fate to take his place. Does he deserve to call himself the God Emperor? Up in the sky, Emperor Chao Feng laughed mockingly. Third brother, said Baian, arching an eyebrow. There were only 3 dragon sons left from the ancient battle of gods and devils. Jiao Feng, Qianyo, and Baian. Of the 3, Baian was the most ambitious. He'd taken over the eastern Divine Mountain and become the Square Palace. Chao Feng had taken over the southern Divine Mountain's Society of Saints and called himself Emperor Chao Feng. No one knew where Qianyo had gone, but they'd heard that he'd founded the Great Freedom. Because of Qianyo's disappearance, Chao Feng and Baian's interactions grew even closer. When he'd mobilized his troops to the central Divine Mountain, he'd asked Chao Feng to look after the headquarters. Back then, Chao Feng had only agreed. Chao Feng. Zhou Wu's eyes flashed with cold light. Zhou Wu. Chao Feng laughed coldly. If you still want to sit on the God Emperor's throne, I'd advise you to stay out of the Bai family's business. Our Lord of 7 Stars has said that she wants to exterminate the Bai family. Our Society of Saints will support her in doing so. Chapter 1429. Everyone, I trust you've been well since we last met. After threatening Zhou Wu, Emperor Chao Feng cupped his hands in greeting. His smile was as warm as a spring breeze, and his face was mellow and mellow. It was hard to imagine that he'd spoken so harshly just now. Emperor Chao Feng. The other experts cupped their hands in greeting. Baian rushed to his side and gave him a big hug. What are you doing here? If you were coming, why didn't you tell me? You weren't ready to come when you told me. We set off after you, Emperor Chao Feng said with a smile. Chao Feng, you finally bared your fangs, said Zhou Wu through gritted teeth. What do you mean? Have I ever kept my mouth shut when it comes to you? Chao Feng whipped his head around, his eyes filled with disdain. Humph, on the surface you seem aloof from worldly affairs, but behind the scenes you're brimming with ambition. Perhaps you've misunderstood me. Even now, I still don't have any intentions of fighting for supremacy. Chao Feng's eyes were indifferent. However, you might not know this, but I'm sworn brothers with Wuxing. What a joke! I'm sworn brothers with Wuxing. If he had a sworn brother, how could I not know? Roared the God Emperor in shock. The other great emperors, including Baian, were all shocked. Only Su Qinyan remained calm. Third brother, how did I? Wuxing knows that I'm indifferent to worldly affairs and have never been arrogant. I'm not good at socializing, so of course you wouldn't know. Qin Yan, however, does, said Emperor Chao Feng. After explaining things to Bai En and the others, Chao Feng smiled at Zhou Wu. You have the nerve to mention that you're sworn brothers with Wuxing. Becoming sworn brothers with you is usurping your brother's celestial fate and stealing his Tao heart. You'll be able to rest easy for the next 10,000 years while sitting on the throne that should belong to Wuxing. That's none of your business. Who cares? Chao Feng was still as indifferent as ever. Yirong, do it. Let's see who dares. Zhou Wu fiercely took a step forward, his surging aura stirring up waves of air. Unexpectedly, the moment he made his move, several emperor-level auras burst forth. Zhou Wu, this is no longer something you can control, snorted Shuiyang. Xianji, the Zhao sisters, Baian, Shuiyang, and Chao Feng all unleashed their divine might at the same time. Even God Emperor Zhou Wu found it difficult to deal with so many experts. His face was ashen as he looked at the faces in front of him. Good, that's great. Insolent laughter rang out from Zhou Wu's mouth as he nodded his head heavily at the group of people before him. However, do you think that I will fight with you? I'm already prepared. Before he finished speaking, several ripples appeared in the void. Everyone sensed the ripples that seemed to have come with the laws. They looked up into the sky and saw a young man standing above them. Sitting on top of the young man was a unicorn that represented holiness. When the unicorn stepped through the air, there were even some golden stars falling from it. When they looked at this young man, they would feel as if he was faintly discernible, as if he was one with the laws of the heavens and earth. If their guess was correct, this young man was probably the master of the laws. Please, master of the laws, said the God Emperor, cupping his hands respectfully when he saw the young man. You are all nobles of the God race. Now that the era is about to end, you should all stand together against a common enemy. You should quietly wait for the end to come and prepare to face the calamity that awaits it. Transcendence has yet to appear, and every cultivator here is a precious treasure that the God race can use to resist the fate of the end. I ask that you stop in time. Do not kill each other and attack the very foundation of the God race. The young man didn't speak, but his words came from all directions. When the experts heard this, they frowned. Zhou Wu's face was filled with an arrogant smile. Zhou Wu, you don't think that we'll retreat just because you called the master of the laws here, do you? To their surprise, even though the master of the laws had arrived, Chao Feng's eyes were still filled with amusement. He didn't even look at her. Yi Rong, shouted Chao Feng. The Star Altar's master of stars, said Yi Rong. Hu Batzi. Xian Ji's eyes narrowed. Profound pavilion, Hu Batzi ordered. In less than half a breath's time, the cultivators of the Star Altar and Profound Pavilion surrounded the Bai family. When the Bai family members saw this, they tightly gripped their weapons. However, their hands trembled violently. Chao Feng, what's the meaning of this? Asked the young man. Can't you tell? Chao Feng smiled calmly, then his eyes narrowed. I never would have guessed that the master of the laws, who has never sided with anyone, would become Zhou Wu's lackey. Since you're the master of the laws, you'd best get the hell out of my sight. Do you understand? Are you going to disobey the master of the laws? Disobey? Chao Feng's eyes flashed with an evil charm. A ray of brilliance flashed across his eyes. I'm not being disobedient. If you don't know when to back off, not only will I be disobedient, but I will also kill you to obtain the Tao. Kill the master of the laws. There were quite a few people in the God race who did this. However, all of them were blacklisted by the laws. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or Tao condensation, they were obstructed in every way. Even so, there were still people who did it. That was because killing the master of the laws was actually the easiest way to condense a Tao heart. It was the easiest way. Besides, as long as they did it cleanly enough, there was a chance that the laws wouldn't discover who the hunter was. As for why the laws of heaven and earth couldn't find out, no one knew. However, the god race had a theory. In truth, masters of the laws were meant to be hunted down and killed. If the methods used weren't too vile, the laws would turn a blind eye to it. Hunting down the master of the laws had long since been common practice, but it was rare for them to do it so openly. Are you going to scram or not? Chao Feng glared at the youth in the sky. The unicorn beneath him began to beat its hooves uneasily. You really are impudent, the young man shouted angrily. It doesn't matter if I'm impudent or not. Just tell me if you're going to scram or not. Scram. Hurry up and scram. Don't appear in front of us again. If you don't scram, then leave your Tao heart behind. Go ahead and try me. Then I won't be polite. With that, Chao Feng's hand reached out towards the youth. The youth hurriedly tried to mobilize the laws, but to his surprise, they crumbled under the pressure. Time rewind. At this moment, a low murmur sounded in everyone's ears. Chao Feng, who'd been grabbing at the master of the laws, couldn't help but return to his original position. My apologies. I apologize on his behalf for all the trouble he's caused. He bowed deeply. This time, they saw a young woman appear by the youth's side. Based on her methods, it was obvious that she was far more adept at using the laws than the youth. Big Sister Ru, why are you here? The youth scratched his head. I'd like to ask you what you're doing here. You haven't even mastered the most basic laws yet. Are you looking to die? Rebuked the young woman angrily. When Chao Feng heard this, he understood. Just now, when he'd attacked the youth, he'd sensed that he was different from the masters of the laws he'd encountered before. So it turned out he hadn't mastered the laws yet. But from the looks of it, the masters of the laws were actually a group. No wonder after killing a master of the laws, a new one would quickly take his place. Chapter 1430. The female master of the laws before him was clearly much more troublesome to deal with than the immature youth. Just now, she'd used the laws of time to reverse time. Even someone who'd condensed a time Tao heart wouldn't be able to use it with ease. However, she'd used it with ease just now. Big Sister Ru, I was wrong. The berated youth hung his head resentfully. He really had snuck out this time. Back in the clan, he'd always hear his brothers talk about how fun the outside world was. He couldn't resist his curiosity, and decided to come out and take a look. As soon as he came out, he ran into Zhou Wu and was tricked into coming here. If I kill her, I'll obtain the complete Tao heart of time. As he stared at the female master of the laws, God Emperor Zhou Wu suddenly had this thought. Among the myriad great Taos, the Tao of time was even more difficult to comprehend than the Tao of the five elements. Time acceleration, time stop, and time reverse. No matter which of these three techniques he used, they were all extremely useful in actual combat. The female master of the laws turned to look at God Emperor Zhou Wu. His eyes instantly lit up with friendliness, and he nodded and smiled back. She'd sensed it. He hadn't expected that just a thought flashing through his mind would cause her to notice his killing intent. It seemed that this existence really was on a much higher level than the youth, the master of the laws. The female master of the laws stared at Zhou Wu once more, then retracted her gaze. The other great emperors noticed the change in her expression and turned to look at Zhou Wu. They didn't need to think too much to know why the master of the laws was looking at him. He'd once wanted to kill him. Then tell me, why did you come all the way here? Asked the female master of the laws. I followed him. He could tell that I was from the land of the laws and said that someone had broken the balance of the laws. He asked me to come and help. The youth pointed at God Emperor Zhou Wu. Is that so? The female master of the laws glanced at Zhou Wu, but the smile on her lips wasn't a real one. She retracted her gaze, patted the young man's head gently, and said earnestly, "Fortunately, your skills aren't that good, and your comprehension of the laws isn't particularly thorough. Otherwise, you'd already be dead by someone with ulterior motives. The outside world isn't as good as you think. Danger lurks in every corner. I don't know how many people want to use us to obtain a shortcut to condense their Tao heart. You have to grow up in the future. Remember, don't follow everyone who comes looking for you. As masters of the laws, we'll naturally be able to detect it in advance if someone tries to break the balance. Got it? Caressing the youth's head, the female master of the laws cast Zhou Wu a few more glances. From the moment his killing intent was seen through, Zhou Wu maintained a friendly smile on his face. He no longer thought about killing the laws to obtain the Tao heart. Not only that, but when the female master of the laws looked at him, he actually spoke to her. Please forgive me. I didn't know that your younger brother is still underage. It is my mistake to rashly bring him to such a dangerous place. Zhou Wu said sincerely. But the masters of the laws exist to balance the power of the laws, as well as to balance the internal factions of the God race. These people are the lords of the God mountains, yet they want to act against me, the heavens' chosen emperor. They want to wipe out the Bai clan, a clan that has done its duty for the God race. Although Zhou Wu is the God emperor, his abilities are limited. It's limited, so please judge it and give us justice. You're the one complaining first, snorted Zhao Qianhe. The female master of the laws gazed indifferently at Zhou Wu's sincerity. He could clearly sense her hostility towards him, but he still acted as if he didn't mean it when he apologized. Then, he changed the subject and asked her to uphold justice. He was eloquent and shrewd. It wasn't surprising that such a person could trick her younger brother, who'd never left his clan. However, she agreed with one thing Zhou Wu said. The masters of the laws truly existed to balance the power of the laws, to balance the internal factions of the God race, and to wipe out those who provoked or deliberately altered the laws. Although she felt enmity towards him, he was still the God Emperor of the God race. If someone really wanted to deal with him and wipe out his entire clan, she would have to step forward and deal with it. Corpses had piled up like mountains, and the dead numbered in the hundreds of thousands. As for whether he was telling the truth or not, she didn't need to ask. A jade scepter appeared in her hand. Through it, she could see everything that had happened. She could see everything that had happened, including the cause and effect. However, this jade scepter could only see what had happened in the past. It couldn't predict the future. Her eyelids drooped, and the master of the laws began flipping through everything that had happened here. Suddenly, the master of the laws furrowed his brows as he examined the situation through the jade scepter. Then she opened her eyes, looked around, and finally locked onto Yi Zichen. "What's your relationship with him?" asked the master of the laws expressionlessly. "What is it?" Chao Feng furrowed his brows. "If I ask you, just answer. I've already let you off for trying to kill the master of the laws." "What a joke. The laws can't be challenged. It seems I need to." Just as Chao Feng and the master of the laws were about to fight, Yi Rong suddenly spoke up. "He's my son. If you have any problems, come at me." The master of the laws stared at Yi Rong for a long while. Then, she saw a flash of surprise flash through her eyes. However, she hid it so well that no one noticed. "Let me ask you this. Before I arrived, what were you planning to do? Annihilate the Bai family? Why? Just for that ordinary-looking youth?" "That's right." Yi Rong didn't show any sign of backing down. "So what if I cut off my son's arm and ruined his eye? So what if I annihilate the Bai family? What, you want to stop me? If that's the case, I understand the gist of it." The master of the laws nodded calmly and put the jade scepter away. She looked at the God Emperor's side and Great Emperor Chao Feng's, and a smile tugged at her lips. Zhou Wu's eyes brimmed with confidence. Given the master of the law's impartiality, she absolutely wouldn't ignore the Bai family's destruction. So long as she stood on his side, and with her nimble manipulation of the Tao of Time, even if Chao Feng and the others joined forces, Zhou Wu was confident he could suppress them one by one. This wouldn't just resolve the Bai family's crisis, it would also resolve his greatest worry. Once everything was over, he could rely on this debt of gratitude to get closer to the master of the laws. Perhaps the Tao heart of the laws would be in his grasp. From the master of the law's expression, it seemed she was about to announce the result. The members of the profound pavilion and star altar clenched their weapons. They'd received word that if the master of the laws sided with the God Emperor, they'd have to go against the will of the laws to annihilate the Bai family. At that moment, the master of the laws glanced at Zhou Wu and smiled. When he saw her smile, Zhou Wu's eyes flashed with delight. Chao Feng and the others frowned deeply. Then the master of the laws turned to Yi Rong and smiled. You want to annihilate the Bai family, right? Haven't you changed your mind? Yes. So what? Said Yi Rong. Chapter 1431. The Star Altar. The Profound Pavilion. As soon as the master of the laws finished speaking, Xian Ji and Yi Rong shouted in unison. Without the slightest hesitation, the two factions charged straight at the Bai family. The master of the laws. Zhou Wu's eyes widened as he stared fixedly at the master of the laws hovering in the sky. His rage overflowed and his aura surged. Shui Yang and the other great emperors closed in as well. Several emperor-level auras locked onto Zhou Wu. However, Zhou Wu only had the divine arbiter. She unleashed her divine power and glared at the great emperors. The Bai family screamed in agony. Within the star altar, the masters of the stars were like tigers in a flock of sheep. Starlight filled the sky as they harvested the Bai family's dead souls. The souls converged, filled with resentment. Everyone's ears were filled with anguished wails. The two patriarchs' eyes widened. They could only watch helplessly as their clansmen were slaughtered and the Bai family's 10,000-year foundation was destroyed. It's you. It's all your fault. Bai Mingli's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at the master of the laws. She was the one who declared the Bai family's destruction. Surging killing intent radiated from Bai Mingli and Bai Jinxing's bodies. It was so intense that the female master of the laws couldn't help but stare at the two patriarchs. Why? Roared the Bai family patriarchs. The master of the laws exists to balance out the various factions within the god race. Don't you think your decision was a little biased? Bai Mingli yelled at the top of his lungs. His old face was twisted with hatred. He twisted his neck savagely and glared at the master of the laws. In truth, even if the master of the laws didn't help either side, not even the God Emperor himself would be able to reverse the situation with the master of the stars present. Yi Rong's domineering aura had already declared the Bai family's destruction the moment she arrived. No reason. I just don't like your family, and I don't want it to exist. Can't I? The female master of the law's words were laced with far too many of her personal feelings. Given the master of the law's balanced approach, she shouldn't have said something like this. But she'd said it anyway, and she'd said it with great self-righteousness. You. When he heard the master of the law's words, Bai Mingli's hands trembled with rage. He clenched his fists and looked at Zhou Wu, hoping to beg him to help the Bai clan. But what made him despair was that Zhou Wu didn't even spare him a glance. He knew that God Emperor Zhou Wu would not support the Bai family. Given the great emperors in front of him, he might not even be able to protect himself. I want you dead. At that moment, a furious roar echoed out from behind the female master of the laws. Bai Jinxing's entire body was covered in a blood-red light. His silver-white hair was stained with a faint blood-red color at this moment. His entire body was like a flying arrow released from a bow as he attacked from behind. The situation was so chaotic that no one noticed when he'd arrived. By the time the female master of the laws reacted, Bai Jinxing was less than 100 meters away. 100 meters could be traversed in the blink of an eye for sovereigns. Die! His right hand transformed into a sharp claw that slammed down viciously at the top of the female master of the law's head. The great emperors facing off against the God Emperor felt their hearts tremble. Time. Stop. The female master of the laws calmly uttered these words. Instantly, the flow of time around her came to a complete standstill. Bai Jinxing's hand, which was only a dozen centimeters away from the top of her head, also came to a halt. Pitiful creature, I bestow upon you the destruction of the end of time. As Bai Jinxing hovered in the air, his face and body began to change dramatically. His body gradually aged, and his face was filled with wrinkles that resembled tree bark. His teeth were loosening and falling off, and his arms were shriveled up. Is this time acceleration? The great emperors couldn't help but exchange transmissions. The great Tao of time was one of the 9 great Taos. They'd all tried to comprehend it before. The great Tao of time was divided into 3 stages: time acceleration, time stop, and time rewind. Amongst them, time rewind was the final chapter of the temporal Tao art. Learning it represented that one had condensed the time Tao heart, and it was the strongest chapter amongst the 3 temporal Tao arts. However, this master of the law's subordinates Tao of time left them gasping in amazement. There was no need to mention time stop and time rewind. This master of the laws could use them as she pleased. What shocked them the most was his time acceleration. Time acceleration was commonly used to change the flow of time around you and increase the speed at which you attack. It was like a person that hadn't comprehended the temporal Tao art was facing a person that had comprehended the acceleration of time. If the person fought the person that had comprehended the acceleration of time by 2 times, 3 times, or even 10 times, then that expert that hadn't comprehended the acceleration of time would naturally be flustered and exhausted from dealing with it. This was the most common way to use time acceleration on oneself. There were also more advanced ways to use time acceleration on an opponent. For example, if an opponent was about to attack a vital point, time acceleration could be applied to them, catching them off guard. This way, the opponent would be able to attack too quickly and miss their vital point. However, this only affected the flow of time around them. As for this female master of the laws, she was using time acceleration to whittle away at Bai Jinxing's lifespan. This was something he'd never even heard of or seen before. Although sovereigns were said to be eternal and indestructible, their lifespans were only so long that no one could see their end. In the end, however, they still had an end. No one's lifespan was truly eternal and indestructible. Even an epoch would eventually come to an end. However, there was one thing that couldn't be denied: sovereigns' lifespans were unbelievably long. In fact, their lifespans were even longer than an epoch could exist. The female master of the laws was using time acceleration to whittle away at Bai Jinxing's lifespan. From the outside they could see it clearly. How much faster did Bai Jinxing's time flow be? 100,000? A million? 10 million? Perhaps Bai Jinxing's time flow was even faster than that. However, the great emperors didn't dare think about it any further. Was this the power of the 9 great Taos? Even great emperors like Shui Yang had never imagined that the great Taos could be this powerful. If all masters of the laws had learned the Tao of time, how could they possibly be hunted down? Or rather, who could possibly kill a master of the laws who cultivated the Tao of time? Chapter 1432. Bai Jinxing had once stood at the peak of the god race, but now all that was left of him was a pile of ashes. The god race's great emperors gasped inwardly. God Emperor Zhou Wu's eyes flashed as he stared fixedly at the master of the laws' cold profile. The grand Tao of time. He clenched his fist. This was the first time he'd wanted something so badly since obtaining the Emperor Star's celestial fate. Jinxing. Bai Mingli's eyes were bloodshot. His expression was resolute as he charged forward. It was no longer possible for the Bai family to continue standing. The Star Altar's myriad Star Lords could easily wipe out the Bai family's ordinary clansmen. The Master of the Laws was biased, and the God race's great emperors were hostile. Their clan's extermination was a foregone conclusion. Since that was the case, Bai Mingli didn't want to hide in his shell any longer. He would kill her. He would kill the Master of the Laws. Do you still dare come? After dealing with Bai Jinxing, the Master of the Laws smiled indifferently. She didn't even look back. Instead, she pointed behind her. Time stop. Nothing unexpected happened. Bai Mingli's brazen attack froze in midair. However, his strategy was quite different from Bai Jinxing's. He didn't try to break through the restraints of time. Instead, he's going to self-detonate. The imprisoned Bai Mingli's entire body swelled up, and his skin began to crack. However, because time had stopped, blood couldn't flow out of his body. Through his cracked skin, his divine power transformed into beams of dazzling golden light. An emperor-level sovereign's self-detonation could practically destroy the heavens. The god race's great emperors instantly created a barrier of light around them. The Star Altar's myriad Star Lords, who'd been hunting the Bai family members, returned to the Star Altar. The Yao Ceiling Pagoda's cultivators fled back to the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, and the Profound Pavilion's cultivators entered the barrier. Big Sister Ru. Panic flashed through the unicorn youth's eyes. When the female master of the laws saw this, her pupils constricted. She did everything she could to control the power of the laws around her. She never would have guessed that they'd become so chaotic. Self-detonation. Bai Mingli wanted to self-detonate, but the energy released from his self-detonation destroyed the laws around him. Bai Mingli's eyes were filled with madness. His lips quivered. No one knew what he was saying, but the master of the laws could tell from the movement of his lips. Let's die together. Boom. A violent wave of divine power swept through the entire spirit city, and the great emperors roared in anger. Condense. Faced with Bai Mingli's reckless self-destruction, the great thearchs gritted their teeth and injected their god power into the thin layer of light. The collision between the divine power and the light shield lasted for dozens of seconds. Zichen. Suddenly, Yi Rong's heart skipped a beat as she looked into the distance. Things had happened too suddenly, and the barrier they'd set up with their divine power was rather sloppy. She wasn't sure whether or not Yi Zichen, who'd been enveloped by starlight, was within its range. The starlight disappeared. She looked around but didn't see any trace of Yi Zichen, who'd been bathed in starlight. The other great emperors looked over as well. Zichen. Yi Rong had gone crazy. She no longer cared about the aftermath of Bai Mingli's self-destruction and charged out of the light barrier. Yi Rong. The other great emperors knit their brows as they watched her leave the light barrier, completely disregarding the danger. Xian Ji knit her brows and followed suit. Where exactly is he? The Bai family estate was piled high with lifeless corpses. These were all Bai family clansmen. Bai Mingli's self-destruction wasn't something ordinary rulers, diviners, or even sky supremes could withstand. There was no need for the Star Altar and Profound Pavilion to do anything. Bai Mingli's self-destruction had already helped them exterminate the Bai family. The Bai family had been exterminated. Yi Rong searched through the mountain of corpses. So long as she felt they might be Yi Zichen's, she'd confirm them. Yi Rong, don't be in such a hurry. Xian Ji followed her. Just now, she'd scanned the survivors and confirmed that Yi Zichen really wasn't among them. However, if Yi Zichen hadn't been enveloped by the light barrier just now, he'd most likely be in deep trouble. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. Yi Rong couldn't find any trace of Yi Zichen. She burst into tears. She clutched her face and knelt atop the mountain of corpses. Her tears mixed with the blood she'd just smeared on her face and dripped down her chin. Xian Ji stopped searching. Just now, the great emperors, the cultivators of the Star Altar, and the Profound Pavilion had all thrown themselves into searching for Yi Zichen. They talked to each other, but all they got in return was a gentle shake of the head. Why are you crying? I'm perfectly fine, aren't I? Suddenly, an exasperated chuckle appeared behind Yi Rong. Yi Rong froze when she heard that familiar voice. She whipped her head around and saw Yi Zichen, who'd lost an arm and only one eye. He was smiling at her. By his side were the unicorn youth and the female master of the laws. Zichen. Yi Rong pulled him into a hug. Xian Ji and the other great emperors looked over. When they saw Yi Zichen standing there, alive and well, they were stunned. Just now, so many of them hadn't sensed Yi Zichen's aura. Where had he come from? Then they noticed the Master of the Laws. Had the Master of the Laws saved him? The great emperors all wondered to themselves. My child, my child. Yi Rong hugged Yi Zichen tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. Yi Zichen used his only remaining arm to hug her and smile foolishly. After a long while, Yi Rong finally calmed down. Yi Zichen gently wiped away her tears. When she saw Yi Zichen's severed arm and his damaged left eye, she felt her nose sting. She gnashed her teeth and brushed his left eye. Trust me, I'll make sure your left eye and arm are as good as they were before. It's fine. I'm glad you're still alive, said Yi Zichen with a smile. Star Lord Yi, don't worry. The Hermit Emperor is currently in the Sea of Innocence. If you ask him to help, it shouldn't be too difficult. Shui Yang and the other great emperors walked over. Your Excellency, Master of the Laws, thank you for saving us. Yi Rong turned to the Master of the Laws. Don't say that. It was your young master who saved me and my junior brother. I didn't save him. The Master of the Laws waved her hand. The other great emperors looked at Yi Zichen. With so many great emperors staring at him, Yi Zichen couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Don't look at me like that. I'm not that strong. It was the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. When that old geezer from the Bai family was about to self-destruct, I regained consciousness. Then, when I saw that none of you cared about me, I hurriedly severed the starlight and dove into the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. I brought these two with me. Along the way, the Master of the Laws angrily put her hands on her hips. That's not what you said just now. Didn't you say you went out of your way to save me? Yi Zichen, I never would have guessed you were that kind of person. Why are men so untrustworthy? Of course I went out of my way to save you. Then why did you say it was along the way? Yi Zichen and the Master of the Laws glared at each other. The other great emperors looked at them strangely. You know each other? Humph, who knows him? Anyone who knows him must have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck, said the Master of the Laws. Knowing you is... Yi Zichen pursed his lips. What's wrong with me? I became the Master of the Laws and followed you everywhere. In order to help you, I was even brought back to the clan for a lecture. I thought I'd never run into you again after ascending to the God realm. I never would have guessed you'd show up again. Why am I so unlucky? Why do I run into you everywhere? You're like a ghost that won't go away. I ascended to the God realm normally. Why am I like a ghost that won't go away? Let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about how you were brought back to the clan. You really did support me back then. I'm very grateful. Then didn't I save you just now? Did I save you? Otherwise, wouldn't you have died from the explosion? Yi Zichen retorted. Retorted Yi Zichen. How is that the same? How is it different? The two of them argued louder and louder. The other great emperors glanced at each other. Chapter 1433. The Master of the Laws wrinkled her nose, her bright eyes brimming with anger. The surrounding great emperors didn't rashly say anything. After Yi Zichen and the Master of the Laws exchanged a long, drawn-out glare, the furious Master of the Laws burst into laughter. What are you laughing at? Hold it back. A smile flashed across Yi Zichen's eyes. And here I thought you'd die at the hands of the demons. I'm relieved to see that you're still alive and kicking, said the Master of the Laws, patting Yi Zichen on the shoulder. Can you stop putting on airs here, Lord Lin? Yi Zichen was speechless. The Master of the Laws in front of him was indeed an ill-fated relationship. She was the Master of the Laws of the lower 3 realms, Lin Ru. Back when the demons invaded, Lin Ru had supported Yi Zichen. In the end, her clansmen brought her back to the clan and locked her up. After returning to the clan, Lin Ru was still cooperative and accepted the transformation wholeheartedly. Very soon, she was released from the house arrest, but the clan did not allow her to set foot in the lower realm. She had inquired about it through other people in the clan, but the information she received was barely satisfactory. He never thought that they would meet in the god race's territory. How is Su Yen? I've asked someone from the clan to help me find out. It seems like she's no longer in the lower realm, Lin Ru said. They're all up there. She's now with the heavenly nine-tailed fox clan. Is that so? It's good that you're all alive. Lin Ru seemed to sigh as she smiled. Then, she turned to look at Spirit City, which was already more than 90% destroyed. I'll report that the destruction of the city was caused by the self-detonation of the Bai clan's hegemon, but it's inevitable that the clan will send people here to investigate. It would be better for everyone to clean up this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for me to return to the clan. The great emperors nodded. Lin Ru smiled warmly at Yi Zichen. I won't stay here any longer. The reason I came out was to capture this brat. Maybe my grandfather will want to see you in the near future. Old man Lin, Yi Zichen exclaimed. Don't be too nervous. He probably wants to see you because he wants to tell you something that you didn't know before but should know now. Of course not. I also happen to have a lot of questions to ask old Master Lin. Good luck. Lin Ru grabbed the shoulder of the youth beside her and disappeared from this world. At this moment, the great monarchs couldn't help but exclaim. I never would have guessed that the Masters of the Laws actually had their own clans. The Sorcerer Tribe. Another Master of the Laws has appeared. It looks like this world is much bigger than we imagined. Too little is known about it. I know, right? The great Emperor sighed, but Yi Rong's gaze remained fixed on Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen's disappearance had truly frightened her. The God Emperor has disappeared, Zhao Qianhe exclaimed. The other great emperors looked over as well. The Divine Arbiter and Zhou Wu had long since disappeared from the White Clan's vicinity. He probably took advantage of the chaos to run away. During the explosion just now, none of us had the spare energy to pay attention to him. With the Divine Driver, who has grasped the Tao heart of space, it would be extremely easy for them to escape into the void after the explosion. Chao Feng sighed. Damn it! Damn it! Inside the God Emperor's estate, Zhou Wu smashed his room, his expression savage. The Divine Arbiter stood quietly in front of the door, waiting. The Masters of the Laws, the Sea of Innocence, the Four Directions Palace, and the Star Altar. Having lost an arm of the Bai family, Zhou Wu was beyond furious. What made him even more furious was that in the end, he'd had no choice but to flee back to Heavenly God City through the Divine Arbiter's spatial corridor. In that sort of situation, the Masters of the Laws were on Yi Zichen's side. No matter how strong Zhou Wu was, he couldn't possibly stand up to all of them on his own. Have Yuqi Hai and Huangfu Xingjian arrived? I've already sent them to Heavenly God City. They should be here soon, said the Divine Arbiter. Zhou Wu had spent a great deal of effort to raise the heads of their two clans. He had to keep watch over Heavenly God City. Otherwise, he worried that if Yi Zichen and the others attacked the city, he wouldn't have enough experts to deal with them. After a brief silence, the Divine Arbiter said, Your Excellency, God Emperor. What is it? Are we still going to stay in the Profound Pavilion? There's also the Upheaval Alliance, a faction Xian Ji's nephew founded. Stay? Kill them all. Yes, Your Excellency. The Divine Arbiter accepted her orders and was about to leave when the God Emperor called her back. Wait, do you have any other instructions? Asked the Divine Arbiter. Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion, stay here and don't move. Now that I think about it, the current situation isn't that bad. Although they destroyed the Bai family, it was actually part of our plan. Bai Mingli and Bai Jinxing are from the Five Elements Society. I have never trusted them. It was also due to the Holy Grail that he went to rescue them. The Human Association made their move. At the end of the day, Chao Feng's goal is to destroy the Bai family, not to declare war on the God Emperor's estate. Then what do you mean? Asked the Divine Arbiter. Don't move. Everything is the same as before. If she comes back and wants to leave the God Emperor's estate, then let her. If she doesn't say anything, then we can keep it a secret. At present, the Devil race and Yao race are eyeing the God race covetously. Even if the conflict between us is deep, we have the same enemy. Martial arts. But, no buts, we can't be too stiff with them right now. Just do as I say. Also, send some people to build a few small cities near Heavenly God City. Have Yuqi and Huang Fu's people settle there. Yes, sir. The other emperors nodded in agreement at Chao Feng's suggestion. They looked around at the mess before them. None of them could have imagined that Bai Mingli would be the one to bring the Bai family to its end. Even his clansmen had been annihilated by his self-detonation. The once flourishing Spirit City had been reduced to a ghost town after that shocking explosion. Leave some people behind to take care of the aftermath. The Master of the Laws has actually helped us out. Since she's already said so, we shouldn't make things difficult for her. Leave this to the Four Directions Palace, said Xianji with a smile. Out of all the factions, only the Four Directions Palace hasn't suffered any casualties. It's already over, but they still haven't shown up. Fine, leave it to them, said Bayan helplessly. He didn't want things to end like this either. He'd already ordered the Four Directions Palace's people to hurry to Spirit City. However, according to the original plan, the Four Directions Palace's people stationed near Victorious Return City were a bit far from Spirit City. No one could have guessed that Bai Mingli would self-detonate in a last-ditch effort to bring everything to an end. I've already told them. When they get here, they'll clean up the mess and bring the survivors to the Eastern Divine Mountain, said Bayan. The Bai family that could stand up to the Divine Mountains and Holy Lands is gone, just like that, sighed Zhao Qianling. Don't they still have a branch family? Asked Yi Zichen. That's it, said Yi Rong coldly. From now on, is the Bai family a thing of the past? Yi Rong. Xian Ji arched her brows. Before I arrived, I sent people from the Star Altar to destroy the Bai family's branch family. It should be over by now, said Yi Rong. The men present couldn't help but gulp. Sometimes women could be far more ruthless than men. Chapter 1434. On the way back, Yi Rong was worried about Yi Zichen's injuries, so she guided Starlight into his body to heal him. The other Star Lords were envious, but they were also shocked at the amount of starlight this young master could absorb. Back at the Bai family, he had been instilled with it for more than an hour. Even a 4-star Lord would not be able to withstand it, but this young master did not show any signs of discomfort. Moreover, the starlight falling from the Milky Way seemed to be very willing to drill into his body. Young master should be Wang Xing. Do you even need to think about it? It must be him. If it was the Lord of the Stars, who would be able to resist this? The Star Masters of the Stars nodded and discussed. Yi Rong turned around and glanced at them. It's fine as long as you know. If anyone dares to speak of it, Sister Rong, we wouldn't dare. That's right. We're just talking among ourselves. If anyone were to leak the news that the young master is a king star, I, Li Lei, will be the first to find trouble with him. Count me in. Me too. These astral lords were all Yi Rong's direct subordinates, and could be considered as astral lords that she had personally nurtured. Given her status as the Lord of 7 Stars, the other Star Lords of the Society of Saints didn't dare act presumptuously in front of her. However, these celestial lords had been living in the Star Altar for a long time, and they had become familiar with each other over time, so they could joke around with each other in private. These Star Lords all had an extremely good relationship with Yi Rong. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to openly discuss things even though they knew that Yi Rong could hear them. Yi Rong shook her head and sighed, then checked Yi Zichen's pulse. How is it? Tell me if you have any hidden injuries. Hey, I'm very good now. If you don't believe me, I'll give you a boxing set. Yi Zichen smiled energetically. Actually, he did that because he didn't want Yi Rong to worry too much. Alright, you'd better stop. If something happens to you, your mother will go crazy, said Xianji, pursing her lips. Right, Auntie, why are you all here? Great Emperor Shui Yang and Senior Zhao Qianhe? I've never seen the others before, but judging from their auras, they're no ordinary people, said Yi Zichen. They're all here for you. Xian Ji rolled her eyes. I was just afraid that you, little ancestor, would cause trouble. I tried to stop you, but I couldn't. In the end, I still let you run away. How could we not come if we knew? Don't you know who you are? Heh. Yi Zichen scratched his head. Then they know as well? Xian Ji nodded lightly. At that moment the other great emperors walked over as well. Shui Yang sighed and stared at Yi Zichen for a long time. Even he felt uncomfortable. Don't look at me like that. I admit that I was a little impulsive. My daughter didn't befriend you for nothing. She hadn't expected Shui Yang to say this after staring at her. Little Mo always told me how great you were. Now I can see it. Me too, Yi Zichen. I admit that I was prejudiced against you before, so I apologize, said Zhao Qianhe, bowing deeply. Don't. You're all seniors. What are you doing? Yi Zichen looked flustered. I just did what I thought I had to do. Shui Mo's current state is partly my fault. She wanted to give me the sword from the secret realm. Otherwise, she could have withdrawn from the competition. When he thought of Shui Mo's torment, Yi Zichen clenched his fists. How is Shui Mo right now? I only heard from Murong Shui and the others that Shui Mo's injuries are serious. I don't know exactly how bad it is. You'll find out once you get to the Sea of Innocence, said Zhao Qianhe. From Zhao Qianhe's tone, Yi Zichen could tell that Shui Mo's condition wasn't good. If even the Sea of Innocence, a sacred land of the northern divine mountain, couldn't heal her, it was easy to imagine how serious her injuries were. Bai Yulong. Yi Zichen clenched his fists and rubbed the damaged Yao ceiling pagoda. He narrowed his eyes and said no more. Spirit City. Bai Mingli's self-destruction had destroyed more than half of the city. The lucky survivors hovered in the air or stood on the streets, looking at the devastation. Quite a few cultivators had already left the city. For at least 100 years, it wouldn't be able to regain its former glory. What a powerful aura of resentment! A black-robed man suddenly appeared in the sky. He held a black crystal ball in his hand. From time to time, dark gray shadows would emerge from the city and enter the crystal ball. Wonderful! So much resentment. Someone's here? The Four Direction Palace's people arrived in the sky above the city. In truth, some of them had already retreated halfway through their journey. The God Emperor had suffered such a huge loss, no one could guarantee that he wouldn't turn his sword on the Sea of Innocence, Four Direction Palace, and Jade Lake. The Jade Lake and Sea of Innocence were relatively easy to deal with. They hadn't mobilized any of their experts. The Four Direction Palace had millions of soldiers, but they didn't leave many experts behind. The Four Direction Palace needed a large number of soldiers to stand guard, and they didn't need too many people to clean up after the city. What kind of tragedy did this place experience before? The people in the sky sighed in amazement. Even before they reached Spirit City, they could smell the stench of blood drifting in from the direction of the city. As soon as they entered the city, they could see that the ground was stained with blood, and even the canals were filled with it. They regretted fighting so hard just now to get a place to stay. Why did they mention fighting? Cultivators were used to keeping their treasures on them, or in spatial divine artifacts. The Bai clan members had died, but the artifacts they'd used wouldn't be damaged. They could loot quite a few treasures from the corpses, but now it seemed that they'd underestimated the situation. The former Bai clan headquarters was now piled high with bloody corpses. Fortunately, the survivors had all experienced slaughter. If they hadn't seen so much blood, they might have fainted. Even the elites who'd stayed behind couldn't help but feel nauseated. Boom! At that moment, one of them, a man dressed in brocade robes, frowned and blasted a huge crater into the city's west. Throw them all in. Third Highness, you! Incinerate them all. Their spatial rings and other divine artifacts will naturally fall to the bottom of the crater. Third Highness, that's brilliant. But didn't His Majesty say that these corpses are filled with resentment? He wants us to give them a proper burial. If we just incinerate them, the resentment. A proper burial? That's easy for you to say, but how are we supposed to do it? The Third Highness snorted angrily. Besides, isn't it all up to me when I return? What about the resentment? What does that have to do with me? Even if it does, it's the central divine mountain that's suffering. We're far away on the eastern divine mountain, so what's there to be afraid of? Just do as I say. The number of corpses here is estimated to be in the tens of millions. Just do as I say, and I'll give you 30%. 30%. The members of the Four Directions Palace gulped. Although the Third Highness alone took 70%, his appetite was a bit big. But even if he only gave them 30%, there were so many cultivators here, including rulers and diviners. All right, we'll do as you say, Your Highness. Unbeknownst to them, in the clouds above their heads. Chapter 1435. The Sea of Innocence. Even before Yi Zichen arrived in the God realm, he'd heard from the Wish God that the Sea of Innocence existed. After arriving in the God realm and serving the northern divine mountain, his impression of the Sea of Innocence deepened. He thought back to what the gods called the Sea of Innocence, the northern divine mountain, the boss behind the scenes of the Skyspan Trading Company, the founder of Skyspan Academy, the second-ranked faction in the God realm. His impression of the Wish God. The Wish God was on the northern divine mountain. So was Shui Honghong. Yi Zichen's impression of the Sea of Innocence had never wavered. Under the Sea of Innocence's rule, the cultivators of the northern divine mountain lived in bliss and harmony. He'd always wanted to visit the Sea of Innocence, but he'd never had the chance. When he really stepped into this dark blue sea, he could feel the danger lurking in every corner under the calm sea. This place felt very similar to the river Styx. There were many frighteningly powerful vicious beasts at the bottom of the sea, but compared to the river Styx, this place felt far more pressurizing. Before long, Yi Zichen saw a small island in the middle of the vast ocean. It was a city, the Sea of Innocence. It stood towering on that island. No wonder outsiders say that the Sea of Innocence's cultivation is the highest. Even if it's not, it's impossible. If you want to cross the ocean and live in this city, you'll need to be at least a 7th-stage Sky Supreme. Yi Zichen couldn't help but sigh inwardly as he looked at the endless ocean. They flew over the city, then landed on a 1,000-meter-tall mountain peak. This was the Shui family's residence. "Do you want to rest?" asked Yi Rong concernedly. Even though starlight was pouring into his body to heal him, she was still worried. Yi Zichen shook his head. "No, I want to see Shui Mo first." Shui Yang and the others glanced at each other, then nodded. Then, they walked in together. Along the way, they didn't see any guards like the other clans, not even the maids or servants. In truth, this was a rule Shui Yang had set down. Whatever the clansmen wanted to do, they had to do it themselves. Even his children weren't spoiled. As for the guards, there was no need for that. What kind of guard could compare to a member of the Shui family? The entire Shui family was located on a mountain peak. There were no restrictions or walls around it. Everyone in the Sea of Innocence knew that this mountain peak belonged to the Shui family. Passing through several houses, the Shui family could be considered an oddity among the Protoss. Not to mention that the main residence didn't have any walls, even the other houses didn't have any enclosures. However, the surroundings of the rooms were filled with flowers and herbs, and it was hard to tell who was the owner. But compared to other families, the Shui family was more casual and harmonious. Shui Bebe sat on a round wooden stump, her legs dangling. No one knew what she was thinking, but her expression was unsightly. "Daddy." At that moment, Shui Bebe spotted Shui Yang and the others and ran over. "Who's in Bubbly Mo's room?" asked Shui Yang. "Only Grandpa Hermit Emperor is here. He told me to wait for you here, and tell you to go in as soon as you got back, said Shwebebe. He said Yi Zichen would come too. Why don't I see him? Shwebebe looked around, then found Yi Zichen in the crowd. Ah, you. Shwebebe pointed at Yi Zichen's face. He'd already donned a long black robe, so no one would know about his missing arm. However, there was no way to hide the scar on his face. When Shwebebe saw the wound on his eye, she cried out in alarm. It's nothing. Yi Zichen reached out and patted her on the head. The other major powers glanced at him. They could tell that Yi Zichen was on good terms with the Shwe family's sisters. He'd actually patted Shwebebe on the head. At that moment, the great emperors entered the room. When Yi Zichen saw them, he smiled at Shwebebe, then followed. Hermit Emperor. As soon as they entered the room, Shui Yang called out to the elder by Shui Mo's bedside. When the elder heard this, he turned around, nodded at the great emperors, then looked at Yi Zichen. Senior Hermit Emperor. On the way here, Yi Zichen had heard from Xian Ji that Shui Yang had sought out the most famous and prestigious doctor in the God realm to treat his daughter. This doctor was on par with the great emperors. Now that they'd met, Yi Zichen naturally had to bow to him as a junior to show his respect. The Hermit Emperor walked out of the bedroom, turned Yi Zichen's left eye, then took off his robes. You're even worse off than I imagined. When the Hermit Emperor touched Yi Zichen's face, he could smell the refreshing fragrance of medicinal herbs. It didn't smell like he'd just applied medicine or bathed in a medicinal bath. Rather, it was as if the fragrance had grown into his body. From this, it was clear that the old man had immersed himself in the Tao of medicine for many years. Even the fragrance had seeped into his body. Sit down. Let me take a closer look. Senior, I'd like to see Shui Mo first. Is that all right? Asked Yi Zichen. The Hermit Emperor looked down at him for a while, then sighed and nodded. Go on, but remember to control your emotions. Don't release any anger, killing intent, or any other emotion. Don't let your divine power leak out either. That girl's body is already very weak. She can't withstand any external influence. That's right. Don't even let her breathe heavily. Yi Zichen's heart clenched. It was as if someone were squeezing it. What exactly did she have to go through to make her so fragile that even a heavy breath could harm her? You can't stay like this, said the Hermit Emperor suddenly. When he heard that, Yi Zichen trembled. He hurriedly reined in his emotions and calmed himself down. However, whenever he thought about Shui Mo's situation, he couldn't keep his emotions in check. How could I let you into that room if that's the case? Forget it. I'll go with you. Thank you, Senior. Yi Zichen wanted to control his emotions, but he really couldn't. He silently told himself to calm down, but as soon as he stepped into the bedroom and saw Shui Mo, boom! What a young man! The Hermit Emperor shook his head. He flicked his finger at Shui Mo, and a vacuum barrier appeared around her. Yi Zichen hurriedly realized that he was in an extremely disadvantageous position. He hurriedly reined in his emotions. Senior, take a look. The Hermit Emperor nodded. Yi Zichen took a few steps forward. On the bed, Shui Mo's eyes were closed. She was so calm she seemed dead. Her entire body was covered in wounds, which matched Murong Shue's description of her. What he was even more concerned about was that there were several long black lines spreading out from between her eyebrows. Her arms, her neck, and all of them had burrowed into her neck. Yi Zichen hadn't used his divine sense to examine her body. That would be blasphemy and disrespect. But even if he just thought about it, he knew exactly where the black lines ended. Her heart. He guessed that the reason Shui Mo hadn't woken up yet was probably because of these black lines. Senior, these black lines. Her bloodline power has been destroyed. This is a backlash from her bloodline, said the Hermit Emperor calmly. The backlash of bloodline power? Yi Zichen had heard of this before, but it wasn't a serious problem. At most, it would weaken the body and cause it to cough up a few mouthfuls of blood. It's nothing to others, of course, said the Hermit Emperor, reading Yi Zichen's thoughts. But to her, it's a catastrophe. What do you mean? When she was sent back, her meridians were damaged, her divine power was in chaos, and her bloodline power was destroyed. If others suffered bloodline backlash, they could rely on their own divine power to suppress it, but she can't do it on her own, can she? The Hermit Emperor nodded. Her divine power was in chaos, and her meridians were damaged. Without divine power to suppress her bloodline power, she could only let it run wild. Can't we use external methods to guide it? Her meridians are damaged. Then how about we restore her meridians? Bloodline power. Xuemo's situation was like a vicious cycle. Not even the Hermit Emperor could do anything about it. When he heard this, Yi Zichen couldn't help but knit his brows. Then can she be saved? Yes. Chapter 1436. Her internal meridians were damaged, and if they were to be channeled from the outside, the slightest mishap could throw both sides' divine power into chaos. If that happened, Xuemo's body wouldn't be able to withstand it and she'd explode. If he were to use medicine to recover from the inside, the meridians that had just been built would be relatively weak. He would need to be treated like a newborn. However, the backlash from the power of the bloodline would uncontrollably destroy the meridians that had just been repaired. Xuemo's condition couldn't be improved. Even with the Hermit Emperor present, all he could do was stabilize Xuemo's condition and slow down the bloodline's backlash. However, the result of dragging it out was that it was hard to escape death in the end. As the saying goes, a prolonged illness makes a doctor. Although Yi Zichen had never studied medicine, he had been injured many times. He'd seen his fair share of injuries, big or small. As such, the Hermit Emperor's brief explanation made him realize just how troublesome Xuemo's situation was. He couldn't find anything in his memories that could help Xuemo. He hesitated. He didn't want to just watch Xuemo die like this. But he never expected that the Hermit Emperor would mention him when he asked if there was still hope. Me? Yi Zichen furrowed his brows and looked at himself, pondering all possibilities that might benefit Xuemo. You want to contact Emperor Hades through me? Once Xuemo's soul returns to the river Styx, you can revive her from the river of time? However, as soon as he said that, Yi Zichen rejected the possibility. Not to mention the fact that he wasn't very familiar with Emperor Hades. Their only contact was with Su Yun, which was why he could speak to the eccentric Emperor Hades. Moreover, if he really wanted to do so, Shui Yang's true body stood guard over the river Styx. If Xuemo needed to be resurrected from the river of time, he'd naturally ask Emperor Hades for help. Xuemo's cultivation wasn't that high either. She trusted that Emperor Hades would be able to withstand the backlash from the river of time. Since he didn't have such a choice, this path naturally wouldn't work. Sure enough, the Hermit Emperor shook his head. Then what else can I do to save her? Wait, could it be? You want starlight? Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows after mulling it over. Yes, starlight, said the Hermit Emperor. If you need starlight, I can help. Yirong walked in. When she saw Xuemo lying on the bed, she couldn't help but frown. Bloodline backlash. Her meridians are all damaged. This child's injuries are pretty severe. After a brief sigh, Yirong had already begun to establish contact with the stars in the void. Lord of 7 stars, we appreciate your kindness, but the starlight the Hermit Emperor spoke of isn't the radiance of the 7 stars. Shui Yang and the other great emperors walked in as well. Even with the great emperors standing inside, the room didn't seem crowded at all. Yirong glanced at Shui Yang and the Hermit Emperor. Out of all the stars in the sky, the 7 stars are the purest. You don't need them, do you? You don't want the radiance of the King's star, do you? I want the Emperor's star. The Hermit Emperor rose from the chair in front of the bed. Right now, the only thing that can help this young lady is the radiance of the Emperor's star. Yi Zichen, to tell you the truth, we sent so many people to the Bai family in order to bring you back to the Sea of Innocence. The Hermit Emperor already said that only the Emperor Star's celestial fate can save Shuemo, but we only learned from Xianji that you might be the Emperor Star. Right now, we need to confirm whether or not you're the Emperor Star. Tell us the truth. Zhao Qianhe said frantically. I am. In the face of their fervent gazes, Yi Zichen nodded without the slightest hesitation. The Emperor Star's identity had to be kept a secret, but these people were most likely on his side. Besides, Xianji had already explained things to them, which meant they were trustworthy. So it's you. Bai An's eyes widened and his emotions wavered. Bai An, shouted Chao Feng. Just now, Yi Zichen had clearly sensed Bai An's hostility. His heart had clenched, but when he heard Chao Feng call him that, he understood. Great Emperor Bai An. He'd always strived to win the Emperor Star's favor, but the Emperor Star had never shown him any mercy. His dreams had come to naught. He'd waited so long for the Emperor Star, but in the end it had chosen someone else. Yi Zichen understood why he was so emotional. All of you, wait a moment. Yi Rong suddenly reached out. Do you have any idea what you're saying? The Emperor Star's celestial fate. The Emperor Star is the emperor of hundreds of millions of stars in the 9 heavens. Its supreme aura is unnaturally tyrannical. The young lady's body was already very weak. With the Emperor Star's radiance pouring into her body, how could she possibly resist the Emperor Star's tyrannical starlight? If you can't find the lunar star among the auxiliary stars, I know the Nandu celestial star. His starlight is relatively gentle. I'm actually the lunar star, said Su Qinyan as she walked through the crowd. The great emperor's eyes widened. Yi Rong frowned at Su Qinyan for a long time. No wonder I always felt like you had celestial fate on you. Since you're the lunar star, why didn't you use your celestial fate to heal Shuemo? I asked the Hermit Emperor about it, but he refused, said Su Qinyan. The lunar star's 5 elements were yin and water. It represented family, wealth, mother, wife, daughter, or female. The lunar star's celestial fate was the mildest and most compatible with Shuemo. If even this type of fate didn't work, then there was no other suitable fate for her to use. I understand what you're trying to say, Lord of 7 Stars. You want this girl to be a yin woman. The lunar star's celestial fate is also yin, and its celestial light is gentle. Under other circumstances, the Great Empress's celestial fate would be the best choice, but this girl's situation is a bit special, explained the Hermit Emperor. Her 5 elements are yin and water. Her 5 elements belong to yin and water, and after the backlash from the power of her bloodline, the condition of her body is especially bad. The starlight of the lunar star, which is also of the Gui yin water attribute, just happens to nourish the bloodline power that is suffering from the backlash, and will only accelerate the deterioration of her condition. So you want to use the Myrtle Star? Asked Yi Rong. The Myrtle Star's celestial fate is the best choice. As long as the celestial light enters her body, this girl will have the Emperor Star's celestial fate and be favored by heaven and earth. The backlash from her bloodline power won't dare fight against the celestial fate. It can only wait to be slowly eaten away, said the Hermit Emperor. No matter how reasonable the Hermit Emperor's explanation was, Yi Rong shook her head the entire time. To her, this was all nonsense. Who could guarantee that Shuemo wouldn't be torn to shreds by the Emperor Star's tyrannical power? Fine. As long as we can save Shuemo, I'll do anything. Chapter 1437. The Great Emperors knit their brows. It seemed Shuemo's final hope rested in Yi Zichen's hands. None of them would have guessed Yi Rong would refuse so firmly. Yi Rong. In the face of Yi Rong's stubbornness, suspicion flashed through Xianji's eyes. They'd known each other for so long, and in her heart, Yi Rong had always been the considerate type. She was gentle, generous, and didn't bother with trifles. When she did things, she didn't act out of her own self-interest. Whenever she could, she helped others, and whenever they asked for help, she would. In this situation, Yi Rong was completely out of character. Suddenly, Xianji recalled how she hadn't mentioned the Emperor Star's celestial fate. If they just needed starlight, she'd offered to help without any hesitation. However, after mentioning that they needed starlight, she started arguing with the Hermit Emperor. The other great emperors noticed it as well and they understood it in their hearts. She didn't want to harm Yi Zichen. So long as you don't need starlight, I can represent the star altar and support you in any way you need. But if all you want is starlight, I'm sorry. I absolutely won't agree, said Yi Rong solemnly. Mom, Yi Zichen was just about to speak. Shut up, shouted Yi Zichen, cutting him off. Yi Rong grabbed his shoulder and said, I said I won't agree, so I won't agree. Now that you've grown up, you won't even listen to your mom anymore? At this point, Yi Zichen glanced at the great emperors around him, but didn't say anything else. Zhao Qianling wanted to say something, but Shui Yang stopped her. He shook his head at her. We're all on the same side. What are you doing? Great Emperor Chao Feng glanced at the situation, then laughed. Shui Yang, we've been running around day and night without rest. I'm sure you're all tired. Don't you think you should be a good host and find us a few rooms to rest in? Great Emperor Chao Feng is right. Shui Yang nodded. Qianhe, you go. No need. Bian and I have a few empty rooms nearby. We'll just take them there, said Qianji. At the same time, she sent Shui Yang a private transmission. Aren't you just looking for trouble by sending Qianhe? Shui Yang trembled. That's right. If he were to let Zhao Qianhe go, she would definitely bring up the matter of the Emperor Star's radiance along the way. Yi Rong's attitude was already so resolute, and any further discussion would only make her more impatient. You are so thoughtful. You stay here and comfort the two of them and give them some mental work. Yi Rong refused because she was worried that Yi Zichen would get hurt. I'll go check it out. Yi Zichen is willing to help Xianji transfer celestial fate. I'm sure Yi Rong will accept it after a while, said Xianji. It's not bad to go back and have a good rest. At that moment, the Hermit Emperor spoke up. Starlight was just a passing remark. I hope you won't take it to heart, Lord of 7 Stars. Please take your son back and rest well. I will come over to treat his eye disease in a few days. Yi Rong thanks the Hermit Emperor. Yi Rong cupped her hands. The Hermit Emperor smiled amiably and nodded. At that moment, Xianji walked out of the room. Yi Zichen hesitated, but Yi Rong scolded him harshly. Go. Believe it or not, I will directly seal your divine elixir. Yi Zichen's eyes were filled with struggle. When Shui Yang saw this, he spoke up. Go back with the Lord of Big Dipper. Yi Zichen knew from Yi Rong's determination that it was no longer possible to help Shui Mo absorb the Emperor Star's radiance. He pursed his lips and struggled inwardly, but there was nothing he could do. He hung his head dejectedly, but just as he was about to step out the door, he suddenly stopped. Yi Zichen! Yi Rong shouted. Mom, don't be so guarded against me. I'm not going to give Shui Mo starlight. Yi Zichen sighed, then turned to Shui Yang. Great Emperor Shui Yang, do you have a prison cell for prisoners? Of course, said Shui Yang. Could you lend it to me for a moment? Asked Yi Zichen. Of course not. Shui Yang didn't know what Yi Zichen needed a prison cell for, but he didn't ask. I'll have Bebe take you there. Thank you. Zichen, you're really not going to listen to Mommy, right? Yi Rong thought that Yi Zichen was dissatisfied. Why do you want to go to jail for no reason? Hurry up and come back with me. All right, Yi Rong, it's not like you don't know Lil Ye's personality. Since he said he wouldn't do it, he naturally wouldn't lie to you. Besides, we live in the Shui family. Even if he really wants to take a detour, you can find out immediately, right? Let him go. When he's done with his business, he'll come to us through his aura. Yes. Xianji held Yi Rong's hand and comforted her softly. After such a long period of training, he is no longer a child. After watching for a long time, Yi Rong sighed and said with a frown, If you dare to act recklessly, I will seal your divine elixir. Let's go, let's go. Su Qingyan, Chao Feng, Baian, and Xian Ji dragged Yi Rong, whose face was filled with anger, out of the room. When they left, Bei Bei also ran over. When he saw these powerful beings, he even bowed slightly and waited for them to leave before entering. Bei Bei, take Yi Zichen to our family's prison, said Shuiyang. Yi Zichen cupped his hands respectfully at the experts, then left. Little Mo, what should we do? There was no one else in the room. Zhao Qianling, who'd lost control of her emotions, burst into tears. Yi Rong's determination had obliterated her daughter's last hope of survival. How could she not be dismayed? Qianling, the Lord of the Big Dipper, is acting like this because she doesn't want her child to be hurt. Little Mo is our daughter, so we're worried. Yi Zichen is also her child, so she naturally cares. We don't understand the relationship between Starlight and the stars, but as the Lord of the Big Dipper, she does. That's why she's acting so resolute, said Shuiyang. But he's little Mo's last hope. Zhao Qianling was sobbing uncontrollably. Xianji said she would try to persuade the Lord of the Big Dipper. You've seen Yi Zichen's intentions for yourself. He wants to save our little Mo. There's still a chance, so don't be too pessimistic, said Shuiyang. Didn't you see how resolute she was? Did she look like she could be persuaded? Shouted Zhao Qianling. Ahem. The Hermit Emperor coughed. If you want to argue, do it outside. Zhao Qianling, who was sobbing uncontrollably, hurriedly steadied her emotions. Shuiyang wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, then looked at Shuimo as she lay on the bed. Even if the Lord of the Big Dipper insists on not wasting the Emperor Star's celestial fate, little Mo can still be saved. As soon as Shuiyang said this, the Zhao sisters' expressions froze. The Hermit Emperor's expression froze as well. Have you thought this through? In truth, that's just my speculation. The chances of success are less than 10%. The way I see it, using the Emperor Star's brilliance is the best method. What exactly are you talking about? Zhao Qianling furrowed her brows. Shuiyang and the Hermit Emperor ignored Zhao Qianling's questions. Then, Shuiyang smiled calmly. And said, if the Lord of the Big Dipper doesn't agree, isn't this our only option? Chapter 1438. Zhao Qianling was on the brink of despair, but when she heard from Shuiyang that there was another way to save Shuimo, her eyes lit up. But as she continued to listen, she realized that this method seemed to be the last resort. The success rate was less than 10%. He would also lose his entire lifetime of cultivation. What kind of riddle are you guys playing? Zhao Qianling demanded. No matter how many times Zhao Qianling asked, the Hermit Emperor and Shuiyang seemed to have reached some sort of tacit understanding. Neither of them said a word. The Hermit Emperor mulled over Shuiyang's words, then nodded. How pitiful parents are! As soon as he finished speaking, the Hermit Emperor ordered them to leave. This child needs to recuperate. There are too many people here today. You guys shouldn't stay here anymore. Go out. Thank you, Hermit Emperor, for taking care of Bubbly Foam. The Hermit Emperor nodded, and Shuiyang looked at the Zhao sisters. Little Mo needs to rest. Let's not stay here. It's not good for her. Let's go out. Zhao Qianling left the room and blocked Shuiyang's path. Shuiyang, what's going on? What are you and the Hermit Emperor talking about? Nothing. Did he just say that the success rate is less than 10% and that you need to cultivate your entire life? This is just a worst-case scenario. Shuiyang pursed his lips and smiled. Perhaps the Lord of Big Dipper will turn things around, but even if she doesn't agree in the end, all you have to do is remember that Bubbly Mo hasn't lost all hope yet. Hey, what happened to your eyes? Shui Beibei, who was leading Yi Zichen to the Shui family's prison, tilted her head and asked. You mean this? Yi Zichen pointed at his left eye with a smile. That's right, said Shui Beibei. Big Sister Murong and the others said you went to get revenge for Second Sister. Is that how your eyes got hurt? They told you everything, Yi Zichen nodded. We've been keeping in touch. Shui Beibei took out the jade slip. Are your eyes badly injured? No, Yi Zichen smiled. That's good. Shui Bei didn't think too much of it. She smiled. Did you get revenge for second sister? When Yi Zichen thought of the Bai family's annihilation, a fierce light flashed through his eyes. Of course. Really? Then you're pretty amazing. What do you think? How could someone that your sister has taken a fancy to be bad? Oh right, why don't I see Hong Hong? Isn't she in the clan? A 10-year vow. Even now, Yi Zichen remembered it clearly. The two of them hadn't actually experienced anything, but they had inexplicably made that kind of vow. Ever since he'd arrived in the Sea of Innocence, his heart had been pounding. He wanted to see Shui Hong Hong, but he didn't want her to see him like this. Big Sis went to the clan's secret realm. She won't be coming out for a while, said Shui Bei. I see. Yi Zichen nodded. He felt a bit disappointed, but then let out a sigh of relief. This is my family's prison. You can go in by yourself. I won't be going in. Shui Bei looked at the door leading out from the foot of the mountain, fear flickering in her eyes. Oh, you're scared? Yi Zichen joked. Nonsense. It's just that the smell inside is too bad. I don't want to stink after going in. Shui Bei stuck out her nose and snorted, then sent a beam of divine power into the light. When the beam of light she shot out landed on the halo, several incomprehensible runes appeared above the halo. The runes were interconnected, and from the looks of the runes, it seemed that only the divine power of the Shui family's bloodline would be reflected by the halo. Before long, the light disappeared, and Shui Bei retracted her hand. Go on in. I'll wait for you outside. Right, take this with you. Shui Bei tossed a talisman to Yi Zichen. This is the divine power that I just added. If you want to open the door of the cell, just activate this talisman. With that, Shui Bei turned around, tilted her head, and waved at Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen chuckled and entered the cell. It wasn't as messy as Shui Bei had described. The air inside was fresh and clean, but because it was located at the foot of the mountain, there was no light to illuminate the interior, so it was dark. When Yi Zichen recalled Shui Bei's earlier tsundere expression, he couldn't help but chuckle. However, he was also curious as to what kind of person was being held here to make Shui Bei so afraid. Fiery Eyes of Truth, activate. Yi Zichen's fiery eyes of truth illuminated the dimly lit prison cell. He walked down the stone path and past countless ordinary prisoners. When he reached the second underground floor, he finally saw his first target worthy of his attention. A man in blue robes sat in the middle of the cell, pouring himself a cup of wine. There was a table in front of him, and he seemed to be enjoying himself. However, judging from the prisoner's aura, he was a Yao expert. His aura was very restrained. Yi Zichen merely glanced at him, but he felt a chill run up his spine. After that, he ignored Yi Zichen and continued to drink by himself. I'm afraid he's at least a Yao divine general. Yi Zichen gulped, then continued walking deeper into the forest. Along the way, he saw that the prisoners were all divine generals, demon generals, and Yao generals. He was sure that the prisoners on the first floor were all ordinary people, while those on the second floor were all divine generals. And then there was a third floor. Kid, I advise you not to go any further. Just as Yi Zichen was hesitating about whether or not to go down, a voice suddenly rang out from the second floor. Yi Zichen looked behind him and saw that it was the Yao expert he'd seen earlier. Senior, what sort of extraordinary existence is locked up on the third floor? Asked Yi Zichen respectfully. Senior? Haha, you're calling me senior? The blue-robed Yao divine general laughed, then leaned against the wall and wrinkled his nose. You're not a member of the Shui family. No wonder. But for you to enter the Shui family's dungeons, it's clear that Shui Jia trusts you quite a bit. Yi Zichen stood in place and said nothing. All right then. Just because you called me senior, I'll give you a few pointers, said the blue-robed expert. I'd like to hear the details, said Yi Zichen. You saw it for yourself. In truth, The Shui family's dungeons divide prisoners according to their strength. The ones locked up on the first floor are all ordinary rulers and diviners. The ones locked up on the second floor are all general-class existences like us, so it's not hard to guess that the ones locked up on the third floor are all existences with higher cultivation bases than us. Emperor level. Emperor level. That's right. You humans call it Emperor level. But based on the aura I've sensed over the years, he should be a demon, said the blue-robed Yao. Chapter 1439. When he mentioned the prisoners on the third floor, Yi Zichen sensed the auras of several of the prisoners on the second floor fluctuate. Yi Zichen couldn't help but stare blankly. They were all divine generals, yet the mere mention of the prisoners on the third floor was enough to make them react like this? Little guy, you're not from the Shui family, but you're quite polite, so I'll tell you this out of goodwill. As for whether or not you want to go down, that's up to you. But I'd still advise you not to. Earlier, a few of the Shui family members brought food down there, and they were all frightened out of their wits. They were all rulers and other experts. The cyan-robed expert laughed, then looked away and muttered to himself. He paid Yi Zichen no heed. Yi Zichen looked at the passageway leading to the third floor, his heart filled with undisguisable curiosity. He wanted to see for himself just how ferocious this demon general, whom the Yao divine generals had boasted about so much, was. He bowed to the expert, then after a moment's hesitation, braced himself and took a step down. In the blink of an eye, he retracted his leg and ran up to the first floor without looking back. The cyan-robed expert who'd warned him chuckled, looked at the passageway to the third floor, and took a sip of wine. Ha! 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 Yi Zichen ran up the first floor, then put his hands on his knees and looked at the ground. His pupils constricted and he gasped for breath. Beads of sweat covered his face, nose and chin, then dripped to the ground. Yi Zichen had only taken one step, but he felt like he was about to die. That's why he'd run up without even looking back. Even now, his hands were trembling violently. He'd never felt this way before, not even when he faced the god, Yao, and demon emperors. What exactly is locked up there? Yi Zichen muttered to himself, his face drenched in sweat. After a while, he straightened his back and wiped the sweat off his face. He didn't even dare look down. He walked straight to an empty cell on the first floor and clenched the talisman Shui Beibei had given him. He shone with light, and the cell door opened automatically. Yi Zichen stroked the Yao ceiling pagoda in his arms, then merged with it and disappeared from the cell. The Yao ceiling pagoda's environment could be changed by the bearer. By now, Yi Zichen had already opened a path through the pagoda's interior. After leaving the first palace, Yi Zichen had linked the first, second, and third floors of the Yao ceiling pagoda together. Only the fourth floor was still too weak for him to link. I also connected to him. All the demon servants, from the Earth Supreme to the celestial beings, lived together, so they could better share their cultivation experiences with each other. My lord. As soon as he arrived, the demon servants greeted him. In the battle with the Bai family, the Yao servants of the Yao ceiling pagoda were all injured. Fortunately, the Yao ceiling pagoda was rich in resources and had enough healing pills for them to use. Although his injuries were not fully healed, it was only a matter of time. Where are the two I brought in? There's a pavilion up ahead. Do you need this subordinate to bring you there? The demon servant asked. I'll go by myself. You guys stay here and recuperate. Before he even pushed the door open, he could already hear screams and pleas coming from within. He pushed the door open and entered. To his astonishment, Yang Jian and the great sage were on the first floor. In front of them was Bai Yulong, who'd been beaten beyond recognition. Is he still alive? Yizi, you're here. Yang Jian clutched a whip made of divine power. Bai Yulong's body was covered in scars, and he lay on the ground, barely breathing. When they saw Yi Zichen's black robes and left eye, Yang Jian and the great sage's eyes flashed with cold light. Yang Jian, who'd just stopped, couldn't help but lash Bai Yulong a few more times, causing him to scream in agony. Look, you can still scream. You're alive and well. Enough, don't kill him. He's still useful to me. When Yang Jian heard that, he dispelled the whip and looked at Bai Yulong sinisterly. Just looking at you makes me want to rip out your tendons and drink your blood. The great sage said nothing, but his ferocious gaze was even more intense than Yang Jian's. Just like Lin Ru, when Bai Mingli self-destructed, Yi Zichen had brought them into the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. At the time, Bai Yulong was already gravely injured. Now, he'd endured the great sage and Yang Jian's torture. It was a miracle he'd survived. These are just minor injuries. It's not like I can't recover. Yi Zichen patted Yang Jian on the shoulder and smiled calmly. Yi Zichen knelt, grabbed Bai Yulong by the hair, and lifted him up. Can you tell who I am? Just kill me. Bai Yulong's face was so swollen that only a slit remained in his eye. He no longer had any desire to live. All he wanted now was a quick and painless death. After entering the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, Yang Jian had sealed his nascent soul, and the two of them had tortured him endlessly. However, they'd controlled the pace perfectly and refused to let him die. The instant he learned of Bai Mingli's self-destruction, he knew the Bai family was finished. He also knew full well that Yi Zichen, who'd sacrificed his entire family to avenge Shui Mo, wouldn't let him live. All he wanted was death. You want to die? Yi Zichen smiled viciously, then punched Bai Yulong in the face, knocking out all of his remaining teeth and causing the right side of his face to cave in. Bai Yulong flew several meters back and lay sprawled on the ground, blood leaking from his mouth. Just kill me. Yi Zichen grabbed Bai Yulong by the head and smiled coldly. Did you know? I saw Shui Mo just now. As he spoke, he took out a pill and shoved it into Bai Yulong's mouth. This pill was a holy healing medicine. It was hundreds of times more valuable than ordinary pills, yet he'd fed it to Bai Yulong. It really was a holy healing medicine. After a few breaths of time, Bai Yulong recovered quite a bit of his vitality. However, this was a nightmare for Bai Yulong. He knew full well why Yi Zichen fed him this pill. Yi Zichen didn't want him to die. As long as he was alive, he would suffer endless torment, whether it was physically or mentally. With his nascent soul sealed, he couldn't self-destruct. His teeth were knocked out, so he couldn't even bite his tongue. Thud. Having recovered some of his strength, Bai Yulong struggled to his feet. Yang Jian and the great sage were just about to attack when they saw him kneel before Yi Zichen. I'm begging you, just kill me. Give me a quick death. I'm begging you. Bang. 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 Bai Yulong's head slammed into the ground. To his surprise, after just a few hits, he felt the ground become enveloped in divine power. Don't even think about dying. Live on, got it? To Bai Yulong, these comforting words sounded like the voice of the devil. He wanted to die. He wanted to die. Here's a chance for you. Tell me, just who told you to do this? Did you injure Shui Mo of your own volition, or did someone tell you to do it? It's all me. I saw that bitch Shui Mo. Bang. Yi Zichen's fist slammed into Bai Yulong's stomach. Keep your mouth clean and tell me the truth. The Shui family's bloodline isn't something your Bai family can casually break. I told you to tell me the truth. Do you understand? Or do you want to eat a few hundred lashes? As Bai Yulong retched, his eyes flashed with terror. The God Emperor. It's the God Emperor. All of this was ordered by the God Emperor. The Bai family dared not disobey his orders. He ordered me to torture Shui Mo and destroy her bloodline power. He wanted to find out who great Emperor Shuiyang was allied with. It's all the God Emperor's doing. Yang Jian, whip him for me. Even now, he's still trying to smear the God Emperor's name, snorted Yi Zichen. No problem. Divine power materialized into a whip and appeared in Yang Jian's hand. It really is the God Emperor. It really is. I swear, the God Emperor ordered me to do all of this. If I lie, I'll be struck by lightning and destroyed by the heavens. I'll die a horrible death. Chapter 1440. I'm telling the truth. Don't hit me. It was unknown what kind of memories Yang Jian's whip had left in Bai Yulong, but from the look in his eyes, it was clear that he was trembling from the depths of his heart. Yi Zichen stopped his whip. Yang Jian, still holding the whip, knit his brows. Are we still going to fight? Yang Jian waved his finger at Bai Yulong and put down the whip. He fixed his fierce eyes on Bai Yulong. God Emperor. Yi Zichen muttered softly, then crossed his legs and sat down on a nearby chair. He took out a cigarette from his pocket, put one in his mouth, then tossed it to Yang Jian and the great sage. Then, he passed one to Bai Yulong. Would you like to try it? Bai Yulong did not dare to disobey. He took the cigarette with trembling hands. Yang Jian snorted and lit it for him, then started to smoke like Yi Zichen and company. There was a long silence. Only the sound of people inhaling and exhaling could be heard in the building. After the time it took to finish a cigarette, Yi Zichen threw the cigarette but onto the ground and stomped it out. You're saying the God Emperor ordered you to do everything, including torturing Shuemo? Can you give me another one? Bai Yulong spoke carefully. He no longer had any desires. The only thing he wanted was to die. Before he died, he also wanted to live a more comfortable life. Yi Zichen didn't say anything. He merely handed the cigarette over and personally lit it for him. Bai Yulong exhaled a mouthful of smoke before nodding. It's the God Emperor. I shouldn't have participated in the Battle of Geniuses. Because the God Emperor didn't want outsiders to know about the Bai family's power, the Bai family has been living in seclusion. But one day, the God Emperor came to the Bai clan and found my uncle. The God Emperor feels that the Sea of Innocence is a threat to his position, and he also feels that the Sea of Innocence is on good terms with the other divine mountains. In order to solidify his position, he wanted to get to the bottom of things, so he ordered the Bai family to probe the Shui family during the Battle of Geniuses. The way to probe them was through the Shui family's second princess, Shuemo. Creak. Yi Zichen clenched his fists, but Bai Yulong was still immersed in his own world, explaining the truth of the matter. Although the Bai family works for the God Emperor, they will also consider the pros and cons. When he learned that it was the Shui family of the Sea of Innocence, his uncle refused. However, the God Emperor used his power to suppress them, so the Bai family didn't dare to disobey, so they sent me to carry out this mission. From entering the secret realm to the final battle, as well as how to destroy the Shui family's bloodline power and cause it to backfire, everything was arranged by the God Emperor. I was just following orders. Really, please believe me. Right now, I am really only acting on orders. If not for the God Emperor's orders, even if you gave me 100 guts, I wouldn't have done it. How dare you treat the Sea of Innocence's second princess like that? Bai Yulong's emotions were on the brink of collapse, and Yi Zichen's body radiated intense killing intent. He sat quietly on the chair and looked at Bai Yulong, who had been beaten to a point where his face was contorted and was crying and begging for death. Then, he got up from the chair. The scene changed. Yi Zichen and the others were now in the cells they'd prepared beforehand. The prisoners in the surrounding cells all looked in their direction. Bai Yulong also looked around in a daze. This is the home I found for you, the Shui family's prison. What do you think? It suits you, doesn't it? Laughed Yi Zichen. Shui family? Bai Yulong's pupils instantly widened. He crawled to the ground and hugged Yi Zichen's leg. I beg you, please kill me. I beg you. Why do you have to beg for death? It's not that easy to reach the ruler level. You have to treasure your cultivation and live on, don't you think so? He smiled warmly and pried Bai Yulong's hands away. Then, Yi Zichen's expression instantly changed. I'll take good care of you until Shuemo wakes up. Then, she'll personally deal with you. Before that, I, Yi Zichen, swear that I'll make you pay back 100 times, 1,000 times over. Do you want to die? I'm telling you, don't even think about it. It's the God Emperor. It's all because of the God Emperor. Whap! Yi Zichen whipped Bai Yulong. At that moment, he looked away. Don't talk nonsense. What God Emperor? How could someone like you have the right to criticize our God race's peerless Emperor? There's no grudge between the Sea of Innocence and the God Emperor. Your Bai family instigated all of this. Do you understand? You want to trick me into pointing my spear at the God Emperor? You're truly vicious. You don't believe me? Just now you clearly. Yi Zichen whipped Bai Yulong again. This time, he'd finally learned his lesson and didn't dare yell anymore. Yi Zichen smiled, took out a pack of cigarettes and a lighter, and tossed them to Bai Yulong. You seem to like it, so I'll leave it for you to smoke slowly. Remember, you have to live on. Do you understand? If I find out you're thinking about it, I won't be happy. Bai Yulong gnashed his teeth. He didn't dare speak. Yang Jian's whip hung over his head. He was afraid. His hands trembled as he took out the cigarette. Right now, he wanted to die, but he couldn't. Cigarettes were the only thing he could do to comfort himself. Yi Zichen walked out of the cell, then sealed the door with a talisman. Yang Jian, still holding the whip, furrowed his brows. You're letting him off just like that? Isn't that going too easy on him? You even let him smoke. You've really spoiled him. Who said we'd let him off just like that? In a bit, I'll ask around and see if there's anyone in the prison who likes men. Then, young Master Yulong can enjoy himself. Yi Zichen and the others laughed and left. Bai Yulong had just lit a cigarette, but the cigarette fell out of his mouth. Then, he heard his shrill screams. Yi Zichen, you'll die a horrible death. You'll die a horrible death. Yi Zichen, who'd already left the cell, glanced behind him. He could still hear Bai Yulong's wails. Is he cursing me? Asked the great sage. Damn it, it looks like his skin is too tight. Watch how I deal with him. Yang Jian raised his whip and was about to head back inside, but Yi Zichen pulled him back. Let him curse me. It's not like I'll lose any flesh if he curses me. If he likes it, let him. Brother Yi. At that moment, Anti-Upheaval, Murong Shui, and the other leaders rushed over. They'd been waiting outside for quite some time. They'd all heard about Yi Zichen's return from Shuebeibai, so they'd all gathered here to wait. You're all here. Yi Zichen chuckled. When the Skyspan Academy students saw the scar on Yi Zichen's left cheek and his ruined left eye, their mouths fell open, speechless. Yi Zichen chuckled and averted their gazes. Don't look at me. I've caught Bai Yulong. He's on the first floor. You can go take a look. Don't beat him to death. I'll leave him for Shuemo to deal with on her own. Bai Yulong. Rage flashed through the eyes of the Skyspan Academy students, including Shuebeibai. They charged into the cell. Chapter 1441. Both Great Emperor Chao Feng and Baiyan were descendants of the Dragon God, even though they were both from the God race. Although they were both from the God realm, their statuses meant they had far too many matters to attend to. As a result, they could only communicate through divine sense transmissions. They hadn't seen each other in 100 years. Taking advantage of their trip to the Sea of Innocence, the two brothers, who hadn't seen each other in a long time, went to Bai An's room to drink. After bidding them farewell, Xianji brought Yi Rong to a place surrounded by flowerbed. The air was fragrant and the scenery was pleasant. Nearly an hour passed, but Yi Rong didn't say a single word to Xianji. It looked like she was admiring the flowers, but little did she know, she was using her divine sense to keep track of Yi Zichen's movements. That's enough. You don't trust your son at all, do you? She bent down and sniffed the flowers, then plucked a glowing yellow four-leafed flower, walked up to Yi Rong and placed it on her head. I have good taste. It suits you. Only then did Yi Rong look away and meet Xianji's gaze. When she saw her smile, Yi Rong tapped the air in front of her and created a curtain of water. She tilted her head and looked at the flower. Then, a smile flashed across her face, and she dispersed the curtain of water. You don't have to coax me like that. I'm fine. I know you're fine too. I just thought this flower suited you, so I put it on for you. Xian Ji chuckled. I know what you're trying to say. As Yi Rong's fingers brushed past the flowers in the flowerbed, several flower fairies flew out from the flowerbed. They flapped their small and cute wings and landed on Yi Rong's shoulder without fear. Their bright eyes fluttered, and Yi Rong looked at them kindly. She nudged her shoulders, and the fairies flew to the center of the garden and began to dance. Yi Rong smiled and watched for a moment, then walked to the pavilion and sat down. Perhaps my words were a bit too harsh, and I didn't leave that child with any hope. Shui Yang and Zhao Qianling must hate me. How could that be? Hearing Yi Rong's sigh, Xian Ji shook her head. They are all parents, they can understand your actions. That's right, they're parents, sighed Yi Rong. A light breeze blew. In the pavilion, Yi Rong and Xian Ji were surrounded by the fragrance of the flowers in the garden. The refreshing fragrance made one smile involuntarily with happiness. The elves in the flowerbed seemed to have sensed Yi Rong's dispirited mood. They lined up in front of her and chattered in an incomprehensible language. However, from their emotions, he could feel the kindness they were conveying. Don't frown so much. Look at these fairies. They're trying to make you laugh, said Xian Ji softly. Yi Rong stretched out her hand and gently stroked the head of the flower fairy before her, forcing a smile onto her face. The breach cut off the girl's hope of survival. In fact, I was also very conflicted. It was obvious that she was about the same age as Zichen. If I could save her, I would do my best. However, what she wants is the Emperor Star's radiance. I don't have a very deep understanding of the stars, but from what you've said, I can tell that the starlight of the Emperor Star is different from other starlights. Can you explain it to me? Just treat it as a lesson. Of course it's different. Yi Rong nodded. As you know, the North Star is the leader of the stars in the Milky Way. It is the Emperor of the stars. Xian Ji nodded. She naturally knew this. Otherwise, the North Star wouldn't be called the Emperor Star. There are 88 constellations in the sky and countless stars. Whether it's the myriad stars or the king stars, they're all part of the Emperor Star's blessing. Their starlight is used up, but the Emperor Star's blessing restores it. Only the Emperor Star. It can't be restored? Asked Xian Ji. Yi Rong nodded, then gently shook her head. The Emperor Star's starlight is eternal. Once it's used up, it'll show flaws. I'm not sure if it'll regenerate itself, but even if it does, I don't know how long it'll take. The era is about to end, and everyone is waiting for the Emperor's star to transcend. Will the loss of its starlight affect its transcendence? We don't know. We also don't know how much starlight Shuemo needs. If the loss of starlight leads to the end of the era, who'll bear the consequences? Zichen? What will he do if he bears that kind of pressure? Since that's the case, why don't I play the bad guy and refuse everything? So that's what you're worried about. Xian Ji arched her brows. She'd thought Yi Rong was worried about directly affecting Yi Zichen. She'd never guessed she'd overthink things. She was worried about whether the Master of the Stars could transcend, and whether the end of the era would pass peacefully. At this point, even if Xian Ji wanted to say something to dissuade her, she could only swallow her words. Compared to the end of the era, Shuemo's death truly was insignificant. It was just that she was worried about how much pressure Yi Rong, who'd shouldered all of this, was feeling. She was also worried about how Yi Zichen would blame himself if he'd watched Shuemo die without knowing anything. Would the Sea of Innocence, the Jade Lake, and the other alliances bear grudges because of this? I support you. Xian Ji smiled and took Yi Rong's hand. Since they were close friends, all she could do now was support them. The Lord of the Big Dipper and the Profound Pavilion are so elegant. Both Yi Rong and Xian Ji looked up. The Hermit Emperor? Outside the flower-bed, the Hermit Emperor smiled and walked toward the pavilion. Yi Zichen, Yang Jian, and the Great Sage were by his side. Zichen, why are you with the Hermit Emperor? Are you still unwilling to give up? Mommy already told you not to even think about it. Got it? The flower fairies around Yi Rong glanced at Yi Zichen. Instantly, the adorable fairies looked terrified. They flapped their wings and dove into the flower bed, peeking out only their heads. "Zichen, you scared those children," said Xianji with a frown. Only now did Yi Zichen notice that the flower fairies were staring at him in terror. He quickly realized that the murderous aura emanating from him had startled them. After learning the truth from Bai Yulong, he couldn't hide his anger. However, when he'd run into the Hermit Emperor, he'd intentionally restrained his anger. However, his heart couldn't lie. No matter how well he hid it, his gaze and aura were no longer gentle. Chapter 1442. Yi Rong, who was in the pavilion, suddenly stood up. The flower fairies were all frightened by her aura and carefully poked their heads out to look at Yi Rong. In the eyes of these flower fairies, this was a very gentle person. Yi Zichen. The enraged Yi Rong shouted Yi Zichen's full name with a fierce look in her eyes. Yi Zichen didn't expect her to be so angry. In his memories, Yi Rong had always been a very gentle mother. No matter what happened, she would always smile. Even when he was naughty when he was young, Yi Rong would only pretend to be angry. After she scared him, she would pat his head and give it to him. "He has some sweets." After that, he would give him a long and heartfelt warning about what he could and couldn't do. However, Yi Rong's aura showed that she was truly enraged. "Mom! Go back to your room and stay there. Don't come out without my permission." Yi Rong glared at him and pointed at the room behind her. "I go." Yang Jian and the great sage couldn't help but shrink back in fright. They happened to see Pu Jingwan and Xiao Yumei waving at them. They'd been looking for Yi Zichen, but they'd also been frightened by Yi Rong's sudden outburst. After exchanging glances, Yang Jian and the great sage nodded at Yi Rong as a form of greeting, then left quietly. "Mom, go in." Yi Zichen didn't know how long it had been since he'd been scolded like this. Yi Zichen licked his lips, cupped his fists at the God Emperor, then bowed to Yi Rong and Xianji, then wordlessly walked into the room behind the pavilion. He still wanted to say something, but Yi Rong's gaze forced him to retreat. Yi Zichen obediently returned to his room under Yi Rong's threat. Only then did Yi Rong's gaze soften a little. However, she still didn't look at the Hermit Emperor in a friendly manner. "If the Hermit Emperor is here to persuade us, I don't think there's a need for that." "A lobbyist?" "Not at all. I'm afraid you've misunderstood, Master of the Big Dipper. I just happened to bump into your son on the way here. I didn't do it on purpose." The Hermit Emperor smiled faintly. "Actually, I just wanted to have a few words with you." Yi Rong frowned. At first, she thought the Hermit Emperor had gone looking for Yi Zichen, or perhaps her son was unwilling to give up and had gone looking for the Hermit Emperor to change her mind. But now, the Hermit Emperor was saying that it was a coincidence. As an elder of the god race who had existed for a long time, Yi Rong believed that with his virtue and prestige, he would not lie. Since he said that he came here just to have a few words with him, I would like to hear the details. With that, Yi Rong sat back down on her chair in the pavilion and gestured for the Hermit Emperor to join her. "Wow, Yi Zichen's mom is so fierce." Pu Jingwan blinked in shock. Even though they were so far away, with her back to Yi Rong, she could still sense Yi Rong's killing intent. Afterwards, she touched Xiao Yumei's arm. "You won't have a good time in the future. Aunt Yi is actually a very gentle person." Thinking back to their meeting in the modern realm, Xiao Yumei was able to tell what kind of person Yi Rong was. "She's so angry right now because she's protecting Zichen, right? You scared me to death." Yang Jian rubbed his hands together. Even now, when he recalled Yi Rong's expression, his scalp went numb. "Right, why are you two here?" "We didn't see you on our way here," said Pu Jingwan. "We were in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda the whole time." "We just came out," said Yang Jian. "I see." Pu Jingwan nodded, then glanced at Yi Zichen, who'd scurried back into his room. "It seems we shouldn't go looking for him for now." As soon as she said this, Yang Jian and the great sage's phones rang. They took them out and saw. Only Idealism had invited Erlang Shen and the Monkey King into the chat group. A message from Yi Zichen? Pu Jingwan and Xiao Yumei had both lived in the modern world, so they knew it was a chat group. They gathered in a circle and saw. Ding dong. Only Idealism. You two have no conscience. You just left me there and ran off? Only Idealism is Yi Zichen? Asked Pu Jingwan. Yang Jian and the Great Sage couldn't help but nod. What a lame name. Only Idealism. Is he trying to comprehend the Tao? Pu Jingwan ridiculed. In response, Yang Jian and the Great Sage laughed. It was precisely because of this name and Yi Zichen's mysteriousness that the group was filled with curiosity about him. Only Idealism. Don't play dead. Hurry up and come out. Erlang Shen and the Monkey King, can you guys add us into the group too? Asked Pu Jingwan. You two have one too? Before she'd even finished speaking, a cell phone appeared in their hands. What do you think? You're so mean. You just ran off and left me there. You even said we'd go through thick and thin together as brothers. Yi Zichen sat by the door, glancing at his phone from time to time, then pressing his ear against the door. He wanted to hear what Yi Rong and the Hermit Emperor were saying. That was all he could do. As soon as he'd entered, Yi Rong had set up seals around his room. He couldn't send his divine sense out, and he couldn't use his transmission jade slip either. Fortunately, he still had his phone. Yi Rong's seals couldn't block his cell phone's network. Ding dong. Erlang Shen invited the invincible adorable beauty and the ultimate charmer to join the chat group. Invincible adorable beauty. Hey Lil Chen. What the hell is going on? Yi Zichen couldn't help but complain when he saw the sudden message. If he wasn't mistaken, these two newcomers were Xiao Yumei and Pu Jingwan. However, their IDs were Ultimate Charmer. What an unusual name. If someone like that added him, Yi Zichen would have refused without a doubt. However, there was a Mei in there. Yi Zichen guessed it was Xiao Yumei. As for why she hadn't used her previous account, he had no idea. Based on the way she spoke, invincible adorable beauty could tell that it was Pu Jingwan. Given her shameless personality, it wasn't surprising that she'd come up with such an ID. Wah Yumei, your ID. Pu Jingwan pointed exaggeratedly at the ultimate charmer on her phone screen and laughed heartily. Xiao Yumei blushed. That was the name she'd come up with when she first started using the chat app. She didn't know why she couldn't log into her old account. Pu Jingwan's mockery made Xiao Yumei bite her lip. You're so good, invincible, adorable beauty. What? Am I not cute? Am I not beautiful? Chapter 1443. Should I say, as expected of Pu Jingwan? When he saw Pu Jingwan's username, Yi Zichen couldn't help but smack his forehead. After thinking it over, he suppressed his complaints and accepted the invitation. However, why were Pu Jingwan and Xiao Yumei in the group too? Only Idealism. Yang Jian, what are you doing? I have something to tell you too, that's why I joined the group. Erlang Shen, they want to join. Invincible adorable beauty. Hey, is there something you're hiding? Why can't Yumei and I see it? Could it be that you guys have sex with each other? Ultimate charmer. If you don't want me to see it, Zichen, I can leave the group now. It feels like Pu Jingwan has led us astray. Yi Zichen sighed speechlessly when he saw the messages in the group. What he wanted to say to Yang Jian and the Great Sage naturally wasn't what Pu Jingwan was thinking. He'd only added them to the group because they were on good terms, and he didn't want to trouble others. Since Pu Jingwan and Xiao Yumei were in the group, there was no harm in letting them know. Coincidentally, Yi Zichen was worried that Yang Jian and the Great Sage wouldn't be able to handle everything by themselves. Invincible adorable beauty. Hey, he's not saying anything. It seems I hit the nail on the head. No problem, just say it in the group. We're all adults here, so it's no big deal. Erlang Shen, it's my fault. Monkey King, keep an eye on it. Only Idealism, don't spout nonsense. I have serious business to discuss with Yang Jian and the Great Sage. Pu Jingwan, stop messing around. You don't need to leave the group. I'm not going to say anything shameful. Ultimate charmer, alright. Invincible, adorable beauty. You can tell it's me? You have good taste. What do you think? My username matches my temperament, doesn't it? Just looking at my name makes you think of my face. Ding. Invincible, adorable beauty was kicked out of the group. Pu Jingwan had been proudly showing off her name when she saw the chat group disappear from her sight. Her fingers froze on the screen. Then she slapped her thigh and glared at Yi Zichen's room as if she wanted to eat him alive. I'm going to kill him. Yang Jian, the great sage, and Pu Jingwan hurriedly tried to stop her. Pu Jingwan glared at Yi Zichen's room and raised her fists. I really envy this group of youngsters. When the Hermit Emperor saw Pu Jingwan and the others, he couldn't help but chuckle. Although they were all emperors, in the Hermit Emperor's eyes, they were nothing more than children. He had lived for far too long. In terms of the modern realm's years to him, Pu Jingwan and the others were like an 80-year-old grandpa watching a 20-year-old youngster fooling around. I am very envious. Yirong chuckled. But didn't you say you had something to say to me, Hermit Emperor? What exactly do you want to say? If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. I'm getting old, and my memory is getting worse. The Hermit Emperor stroked his beard, then looked away from Pu Jingwan and the others. Yirong and Xianji sat up straight, waiting for the Hermit Emperor to speak. This old man actually understands what the Big Dipper Star Lord said in the room. You're worried that the exhaustion of the Emperor Star's starlight will affect the integrity of the Emperor Star's starlight, and that a flaw will appear during transcendence, leading to the destruction of the epoch, right? You're wise, Hermit Emperor. Yirong nodded. In truth, I've thought about this before, but I don't think it's a serious problem. That's why I suggested to Shui Yang and the others that they use the Emperor Star's starlight to save his daughter, said the Hermit Emperor. I beg to differ, said Yirong, her expression unchanged. What do you think, Big Dipper Star Lord? Can you share with me a bit? Laughed the Hermit Emperor. None of us are the Emperor Star, and none of us have ever interacted with the previous Emperor Stars. Whether or not starlight can heal itself, and how long it will take, none of us know. The prerequisite for transcendence is to be the Emperor Star's Star Lord. Starlight cannot be lacking, as you've said before. Why do you think it's fine? Asked Yirong. In the face of Yirong's torrent of words, the Hermit Emperor only chuckled. Zhou Wu. As soon as Yirong finished speaking, the Hermit Emperor spat out his name. Xianji and Yirong frowned, then saw the Hermit Emperor smile. You know that Zhou Wu has Emperor Star's celestial fate, right? Naturally, said Yirong. But that has nothing to do with the Emperor Star's radiance. Whether it's Zhou Wu, Zichen, or the other two emperors chosen by the heavens, they all have Emperor Star's celestial fate, but there's only one Emperor Star. Starlight doesn't change, does it? You're right, Big Dipper Star Lord. The Hermit Emperor confirmed Yirong's words, then said something shocking. The Emperor Star's radiance naturally doesn't change, but what if there were two Emperor Stars in this era? After kicking the invincible, adorable beauty out of the group, Yi Zichen felt everything settle down. However, the group was quiet as well. Shin, Yizi, I'll pull Big Sister Pu back in. After you kicked her, she went crazy. Only idealism. Who cares about her? Let her go crazy. Why aren't you guys saying anything? I have something to tell you. Shin, Big Sister Pu threatened to kill you. The monkey and sister-in-law are trying to stop her. That really did sound like something Pu Jingwan would say. Right now, he couldn't use transmission jade slip. The only way he could send messages to the outside world was through the internet. He still had important things to discuss with the great sage and Yang Jian. He couldn't let Pu Jingwan keep causing trouble. Only idealism. Let her in, but control her. Shen invited the invincible, adorable beauty into the group. Invincible, adorable beauty. Only idealism, you dared kick me? Who gave you the courage to kick such a cute girl out of the group? Invincible, adorable beauty. Let me tell you, you're tactful. If you don't let me in, I'll… Ding. The invincible, adorable beauty was kicked out of the group. Pu Jingwan vented her anger on Yi Zichen, which only made her even angrier. She started yelling about killing him. Yi Rong and the others couldn't help but glance at her, but they quickly retracted their gazes. Did you just say there were 2 Emperor stars? How is that possible? There's only one Emperor star in the universe. If there were 2, as the Lord of the Big Dipper, there's no way I wouldn't know. If the other Emperor star was hidden, would you know? Laughed the Hermit Emperor. Yi Rong's expression froze in disbelief. As the Lord of the Big Dipper, she'd never heard of 2 Emperor stars. Why would the Hermit Emperor say that? A lie? Given the Hermit Emperor's status, he couldn't possibly say something that didn't exist. Chapter 1444. In the end, Pu Jingwan was pulled back into the group. However, as soon as she joined, Yang Jian, the great sage, and Xiao Yumei acted as peacemakers and tried to calm them down. Only idealism. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Invincible, adorable beauty. I don't need it either. The others felt somewhat awkward. Yang Jian's eyes darted around, then he sent a message. Erlingshin, Yizi, didn't you pull us into the group because you had something to say? Monkey King, that's right. Ultimate charmer. Aha! Only idealism. I'll say it now. As soon as he sent the message, he organized what he wanted to say in his sea of consciousness. He'd thought it all through, but after arguing with Pu Jingwan, he'd mess things up a bit. Only idealism. What's the situation outside? Erlingshin, are you talking about the Hermit Emperor and the others? Only idealism, of course. Yang Jian pursed his lips and snuck a few glances at the pavilion. It was hard to tell what was going on just by looking at it. Send out your divine sense? When he recalled how angry Yi Rong had been, Yang Jian subconsciously gulped. However, he gritted his teeth and sent out his divine sense. By now, the Hermit Emperor had convinced Yi Rong to contact his subordinate Master of the Stars. No matter what her final decision was, she needed to confirm the existence of the 2 Emperor stars. The Hermit Emperor and Xian Ji quietly waited for her to reach a conclusion. At that moment, Yang Jian's divine sense reached out. The 2 of them instantly noticed, but they tacitly chose to ignore it. In fact, they even went out of their way to conceal it. They knew full well that Yi Zichen had most likely instructed Yang Jian to use his divine sense to investigate. How did it go? The great sage, Pu Jingwan, and Xiao Yumei looked at Yang Jian. They'd all sensed him extend his divine sense into the pavilion. I was discovered, said Yang Jian. The others shrugged, but just as they were about to reply to Yi Zichen, Yang Jian stopped them. Yes, I was discovered. However, the people who discovered me did not expel my divine sense. Instead, they used their divine sense to wrap and hide my divine sense. The Hermit Emperor must have done it, said the great sage. What's the situation now? Nothing special. The few of them didn't say anything. They just sat there, Yang Jian said. How did this happen? The great sage frowned in confusion. Then tell Yi Zichen as well. Leaving Yang Jian's divine sense to spy on the pavilion, they all turned their eyes to the screen of their phones and typed out a message. Monkey King, nothing. Invincible, adorable beauty, nothing. Ultimate charmer, nothing. It was clearly Yang Jian who went to spy on them, but it was the 2 of them who spread the news. Yang Jian, who had already typed out "no situation" on the screen, deleted the message. He was the hero who had put himself in danger, so he had to show that he was different from the rest. Erlingshin, there's nothing special about the situation. Auntie seems to be in a daze. Pavilion Master Xianji is playing with the flower fairies, and the Hermit Emperor is looking at the sky. There's no conversation going on between them. Outside the group chat, Pu Jingwan looked at Yang Jian. Scheming boy. Great sage, I strongly condemn it. Yang Jian was speechless after being looked down upon by the three of them. Get this straight, all right? I was the one who went to spy on them. You three stole the credit and spilled the beans. I'm the one who put in the effort. Why can't I explain in detail? I despise you. Pu Jingwan and the great sage simultaneously raised their middle fingers at him. Although Xiao Yumei didn't do anything like that, her gaze was full of disdain. Wow, you guys. I never would have guessed you were like that. Yi Zichen had no way of knowing what they'd been up to. He frowned as he read the message. On the way here, the Hermit Emperor had said he had a way to persuade Yi Rong. Before entering the room, he'd faintly heard Yi Rong and the Hermit Emperor's conversation. But now, the three of them hadn't said anything at all? At that moment, Erlingshin, something's up. The others outside the pavilion saw Yang Jian tense up. He wanted to look at Yi Rong, but he was worried about alerting the enemy. All he could do was wait. Little did they know, when Yi Zichen saw the message, he grew even more anxious. Only idealism. How is it? Invincible, adorable beauty. Wait a moment. Yang Jian's busy right now. Yang Jian focused on reducing the fluctuations of his divine sense as much as possible, while Xian Ji and the Hermit Emperor did their best to conceal it. By now, Yi Rong had ended her communication with the Starfield Lord. She narrowed her eyes and retracted her divine sense, only to notice Xian Ji and the Hermit Emperor's divine sense hovering around her. What are you doing? Just now. Xian Ji walked over to Yi Rong's side. Your precious son's friends were looking in this direction, but the Hermit Emperor and I noticed, so we chased them away. I presume they're trying to find out more on your son's behalf. Is that so? Yi Rong glanced at the room. I've set up seals around the room. How did he get in touch with the outside world? Who knows? Maybe he didn't get in touch with them. Maybe they just wanted to do it. Xian Ji shrugged. Don't worry about them. Did you get in touch with your subordinates? What happened? Don't tell me there really are 2 emperor stars in the sky? Yi Rong's expression darkened. She glanced at the Hermit Emperor. How did the Hermit Emperor find out about this? Yi Rong didn't give a direct answer, but her question confirmed the Hermit Emperor's suspicions. Indeed. Just now, Yi Rong had asked her subordinates about this. The answer was that 100 years ago, before she became the Lord of 7 Stars, the recovery of starlight was twice as slow as it was now. It seems the Lord of the Big Dipper has your answer. As for how I found out, I naturally have my own methods. In that case, does the Lord of the Big Dipper also believe that there are 2 emperor stars in the sky? The Hermit Emperor smiled, but didn't answer Yi Rong's question. There are 2 emperor stars. Transcendence only requires the light of 1 emperor star. Furthermore, healing the Xue family girl requires very little starlight. In that case, doesn't that explain the Lord of the Big Dipper's previous misgivings? If the Hermit Emperor didn't say how he knew about the recovery of starlight, Yi Rong couldn't be bothered to investigate. Even after hearing the Hermit Emperor's explanation, her expression didn't change in the slightest. The recovery of starlight doesn't directly prove that there are 2 emperor stars. If the Hermit Emperor doesn't divulge any important information, then everything is just a guess. Since it's just a guess, there's some uncertainty. We still can't touch Zichen's starlight. The Lord of the Big Dipper is much calmer than I expected. The Hermit Emperor sighed. He looked deeply into Yi Rong's eyes, and the smile on his face gradually disappeared. I can tell that the Big Dipper Star Lord wants to dig something out of this old man, but this old man won't say it, at least not now. Since you're so determined, then let's forget about the matter of the 2 emperor stars. Is there anything else you want to say, Hermit Emperor? Chapter 1445. When Yang Jian said something was up, the great sage and the others tensed up. They didn't even dare breathe too loudly as they waited for Yang Jian to tell them what he'd seen. When he suddenly straightened his back and stood up, the people who had gathered around him were shocked. Their bodies trembled, but once they calmed down, they looked at Yang Jian. Did you discover anything special? In order to prevent Yirong from discovering what was going on, Pu Jingwan and Xiao Yumei had joined forces to set up a seal around them. This time, no matter how they communicated, no one would be able to tell what they were talking about. Pu Jingwan stared intently at Yang Jian, only to see him scratch his head. I didn't discover anything special. She hadn't expected Yang Jian, who'd been so excited just a moment ago, to suddenly say something so tantalizing. Pu Jingwan smacked him on the head. Don't play dumb. You've learned how to keep people in suspense, haven't you? Hurry up and tell us what they're talking about. It's absolutely explosive, isn't it? They really didn't say anything, said Yang Jian, somewhat speechless. Then why did you make such a big fuss? Asked the great sage. That. Yang Jian scratched his head again. Actually, I didn't really understand what they were saying. It's just that they all stood up with their eyes wide open, so I followed suit. The few of them looked at him speechlessly. How could there be someone like him? Pu Jingwan, in particular. He wondered how she'd become a ruler, much less a special envoy from the outside. All right, said Xiao Yumei. If Auntie Yi and the others are so shocked, it's absolutely shocking. Yang Jian doesn't know, but Zichen might. Hurry up and tell him what you saw. He's getting a little impatient. All right. Yang Jian picked up his phone and was just about to tell Yi Zichen what he'd found, but to his surprise. Monkey King. Only idealism, we've got new information. Invincible adorable beauty. The news is especially explosive. Intelligence Agent Yang, please reveal the specifics. Ultimate Charmer, awkward smile. Pu Jingwan and the great sage looked at the group chat. Why did it feel like they were having a little fun? Yang Jian was inexplicably excited. It was just like back in the modern realm, when he'd watched spy movies with Yi Zichen, and he'd been the main character collecting intelligence. It was a noble mission. In order to not miss any information, he carefully organized the information he had collected before sending the message. Erlang Shen, ahem. Monkey King. Light a cigarette for Intelligence Officer Yang. Only idealism. Stop messing around, Yang Jian. What news did you get? They even started playing like this. Yi Zichen was extremely anxious while they were having fun. Erlang Shen, that's a lot of information. Let me summarize it for you. The Hermit Emperor and the others said that there seemed to be 2 Emperor stars. Yi Zichen was stunned when he saw the message. Only idealism. Did heaven choose 2 emperors? Erlang Shen, I'm not too sure either. I don't think they said that the heavens chose 2 emperors. They said that there are 2 emperor stars. However, Auntie Yi didn't believe him. The Hermit Emperor didn't insist on this topic, so he tossed out another important piece of information. Hearing this news, Auntie Yi and Pavilion Master Xian Ji were both stunned, their expressions rather shocked. If the heavens chose 2 emperors, Yi Zichen knew. At the time, the North Star had manifested as him and Gu Li. The celestial fate had split in half, with each of them occupying one half. But if they said there were 2 emperor stars, then he was a bit dumbfounded. Yi Zichen hadn't thought too much about the 2 emperor stars, but he guessed that Yang Jian must have been careless and misremembered. Every star was unique, and all the stars in the sky were the same. The Emperor's star was one of the 9 stars. How could there possibly be 2? Right now, he was more concerned about the news that would shock his mother and aunt. Just how shocking was it? Both of them were dumbfounded. Only idealism. What news? Yang Jian rubbed his hands and sent out the message. Unexpectedly, after he sent out the message, everyone who saw it revealed a look of shock. Pu Jingwan, Xiao Yumei, and the great sage all stared wide-eyed at the message. Yi Zichen slammed his head against the door, his phone falling to the ground as he stared out the window. Is this news true? Yi Zichen's breathing grew ragged. Yang Jian sensed everyone's gaze and thought to himself, is this news really that shocking? Why don't I feel anything? His phone buzzed, and Yi Zichen's message popped up on the screen. Only idealism. Did my mom say anything? Shin, I don't know. That's all I saw, so I came to tell you. Only idealism. Go read it. See what my mom decided in the end. Will she let me transfer Starlight to Shuemo or not? Yang Jian didn't suspect anything. Even Xiao Yumei and Pu Jingwan urged him to follow up. Although he didn't know what was so special about the information they just shared, he could tell from their attitudes that it was important. Shin, leave it to me. The importance of this news made Yang Jian's sense of responsibility skyrocket. He narrowed his eyes, put down his phone, and focused on eavesdropping. Hermit Emperor, this isn't something you can say carelessly. If you're trying to use this method to change my mind, then I'm truly disappointed in a virtuous and respected senior like you. Yi Rong's tone was completely different from before. This news really is too shocking, said Xianji. The Hermit Emperor stroked his beard and chuckled. Why had he told Yi Zichen to go home and get some rest, that he'd definitely persuade Yi Rong? It was because he was absolutely confident in this information. There were 2 Emperor stars, so Yi Rong could be suspicious. But as the Lord of the Big Dipper stars, she knew full well how important this information was. She'd absolutely be thrown into disarray. I can swear on my tens of thousands of years of reputation that this is the truth. Yi Rong, utterly shaken, sat back down in her seat and bit her lip. Xianji leaned in and whispered into Yi Rong's ear. Yi Rong, I trust the Hermit Emperor's character. Shuemo can't die. If she dies, given how long this era has been around for, she won't be able to reincarnate in time. Of course I know that. Yi Rong bit her lip and growled. Then she looked up at the Hermit Emperor. The information about the 2 Emperor stars is also true, right? The 2 Emperor stars also have Starlight accompanying them, right? Of course. How much longer can that child last? Half a month, but the sooner we act, the better. The longer we delay, the more Starlight we'll need, said the Hermit Emperor. I still haven't agreed to save her. In the face of Yi Rong's determination, the Hermit Emperor simply smiled calmly, but said nothing. Chapter 1446. In the end, Yi Rong relented. She no longer firmly refused and asked for 3 days to think it over. The Hermit Emperor's goal in coming here had been achieved. Then I shall await the good news from the Big Dipper. The Hermit Emperor smiled and nodded, then turned and walked away. Yi Rong sat on a bench and stared ahead. Xianji's eyes flashed. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. I really didn't expect that she would also. There's no need to whisper in my ear. In the next few days, I'll carefully consider the pros and cons of this matter. I'll also send people to investigate the Hermit Emperor's words. I will definitely give you an explanation in 3 days, Yi Rong said indifferently. Hey, what do you mean by that? Do you think that the Hermit Emperor and I? No one suspects you. Yi Rong sighed helplessly, her eyes filled with warmth. But do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Didn't you follow me here to be a lobbyist? It's just that you weren't very successful as a lobbyist. You were moved by me. That's because I'm worried about you, said Xianji, pursing her lips. Yes. You're right. Nodding and smiling, Yi Rong leaned back on the chair in the pavilion. But I really didn't expect it. Xianji nodded lightly. Her divine sense quietly pushed out the divine sense Yang Jian had left behind. They already knew what they wanted to know. What came next was the private conversation between Xianji and Yi Rong. It was not convenient for them to continue listening. How is it? The Hermit Emperor has already left. Pu Jingwan frowned. Yang Jian narrowed his eyes and carefully probed with his divine sense. Only when Xianji pushed his divine sense out did his brow relax and a smile flashed across his lip. This time, he didn't share any information with Pu Jingwan and the others. Instead, he met their gazes with a smirk, then lowered his head and sent a message. Shin, I'm back. Yi Zichen's expression froze as he waited for Yang Jian's report. If you looked at it seriously, it would decide Shuemo's fate. Just now, while Yang Jian was trying to get information, Yi Zichen had already come to a conclusion. If Yi Rong agreed, everyone would be happy. If Yi Zichen still refused to let Yi Zichen infuse her with starlight, he'd have no choice but to defy her and secretly contact the Hermit Emperor to save Xuemo. If he was found out, he would be grounded at most. He could act coquettishly in front of Yi Rong, so there shouldn't be any big problems. In any case, he couldn't just watch Xuemo die. Only idealism. How's it going? Any changes on my mom's side? Erlingshin, Auntie said that she needed 3 days to consider. The Hermit Emperor said that he would wait for the good news. Invincible, adorable beauty. In that case, didn't Yi Zichen's mom agree? Monkey King, I can't be sure. 3 days of consideration is not a definite answer. I can't be sure if I'll still reject him. Ultimate Charmer, that's right. What I'm most afraid of when I talk about business is taking a few days to think, because the result after thinking is barely satisfactory. However, this is also related to the client's personality. Zichen, you understand Auntie Yi rather well. You should know what exactly she meant by saying that, right? If Yi Rong said this in the modern realm, the result would most likely be that she would agree. But she was the Lord of 7 stars now, and they hadn't seen each other for over 100 years. No one could say for sure whether or not her personality had changed. Besides, Yi Rong had been too resolute. Only idealism, it's hard to say. Yi Zichen hesitated for a while, then gave an ambiguous answer. Invincible, adorable beauty. I don't think there's a problem. Ultimate Charmer, I think so too. Auntie Yi loves you dearly. Even if she doesn't care about Xuemo, she has to agree for your sake. Otherwise, Xuemo's death won't do you any good. It'll only bring you endless trouble. Erlingshin, you seem to understand Xuemo's identity very well. Just how important is her status? Monkey King, what a waste. You're the star of slaughter. Xiao Yumei and Pu Jingwan froze simultaneously. They cocked their heads and glanced at Yang Jian. Is he the star of slaughter? There was an unconcealable disbelief in their eyes. Yang Jian stared at them and said, I am the star of slaughter. So what? Invincible, adorable beauty. This idiot is actually the star of slaughter? How laughable. Ultimate Charmer, how astonishing. Monkey King, don't worry about him. He's just a simpleton. Yang Jian's face turned green as he read the group's messages. He stopped replying and instead shouted angrily, I'm watching you. Even if you're saying bad things, you have to do it behind my back a little. Invincible, adorable beauty. Yang Jian can actually tell I'm saying bad things. Unbelievable. Ultimate Charmer, how astonishing. Monkey King, actually, we're praising you, Erlingshin. Don't mention me. We're all F***king together. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Roared Yang Jian. Monkey King, the idiot's angry. Invincible, adorable beauty. You're so cute, Erlingshin. Just looking at you reminds me of my little husky. Ultimate Charmer, how astonishing. Only idealism. Alright, stop messing around. Yang Jian is a little simpleton, but I can't stand watching you talk about him like that. How could Yang Jian be a husky? Erlingshin, Yeezy, you're the best. Crying emoji, only idealism. Don't overthink things. I just don't think you can compare to a husky. Invincible, adorable beauty. Ha 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 ha. Ultimate Charmer. Covering her mouth and laughing, Monkey King. Ha ha ha. Erlingshin, you're all ganging up on me, aren't you? He didn't know why, but this sort of chat group seemed to possess an indescribable magical power. Everyone was usually burdened with immense pressure, but in the chat group, they could completely let themselves go, and for a while, those annoying, trivial matters would disappear without a trace. Everyone laughed heartily, and their faces were filled with sincere smiles. Yi Zichen was the same. He couldn't help but smile as he read the group's messages. At that moment, however, the door to his room creaked open. Yi Zichen, who'd been grinning like an idiot, suddenly panicked. He shoved his phone under his pillow. The person who'd entered was, without a doubt, Yi Rong. She glanced discreetly at the pillow. When Yi Zichen noticed her gaze, he grew nervous. You're done chatting? That's right. You know the results by now, right? I didn't expect the Hermit Emperor to throw me such a difficult problem. I'm really hesitant, said Yi Rong. You? How would I know? You sealed my room, so I can't release my divine sense at all. But I really do want to know the results. What did you guys say? What did the Hermit Emperor say to you? You think it's a difficult problem? Yi Zichen feigned ignorance. Mommy doesn't like lying children. Chapter 1447. In the end, he did not escape Yi Rong's discerning eyes. Yi Zichen scratched his head as he looked at Yi Rong's smile. For some reason, he felt like he was caught by the teacher after stealing his phone in school. A phone from the modern world actually came here. Can it still be used? How is that possible? There's no internet here, so how can I use it? I brought it here after I left the modern world, so I took it out to have a look. What Yi Zichen didn't know was that his phone rang the moment he finished speaking. Even if you can't use it, there's still a message notification. Let me see what you're talking about. Yi Rong chuckled as she clicked on the message that popped up and saw the messages in the group. Erling Shin, only idealism, why is he gone? You still haven't finished talking, right? Monkey King, is it out of battery? Idealism ultimate charmer, Zichen, don't worry too much. I think Auntie Yi is a gentle and kind person. She'll make a reasonable judgment of Xuemo's situation. Ultimate charmer, don't think too much and give yourself too much pressure. Aunt Yi is doing this for your own good. Ultimate charm, idealism, is idealism you? Yi Rong read the information inside with great interest. She nodded and said, the great charmer should be my daughter-in-law. As expected, she is someone I like. Her character is also excellent in private. Invincible adorable beauty. There's been no news for so long. Could he have been caught? As soon as Pu Jingwan's message came out, Yi Rong chuckled and typed out a message on her phone. Only idealism. Hello, I am Zichen's mother. There are some things I want to talk to him about. It's getting late. It's not good for young people like you to stay up all night. If there's anything you want to say it tomorrow morning. In an instant, the entire group died. The people who'd been crouching behind the pavilion all stared at each other, especially Pu Jingwan. She covered her mouth, a look of disbelief on her face. So I was right. Pu Jingwan and the others gulped, then lowered their heads. Invincible adorable beauty. Okay, Auntie, we'll go back to rest now. Have a good chat with Yi Zichen. Erling Shin, goodbye, Auntie. Monkey King, goodbye, Auntie. Ultimate Charmer, goodbye, Auntie. Ding dong. Erlang Shin, Monkey King, Invincible Adorable Beauty, Ultimate Charmer left the chat group. All of a sudden, Yi Zichen was the only one left in the group. Yi Rong shook her head helplessly when she saw the message that Yi Zichen left the group. I wanted to say goodbye to these kids. I didn't expect them to leave the group so quickly. Mom, Yi Zichen smiled coyly. You don't have to be so nervous. Would I really confiscate your phone? Yi Rong chucked the phone back onto the bed. Yi Zichen quickly put the phone under the pillow. How can this kind of social media app be used here? And there's even a communication network? I found someone to modify the software and set up a new information network, said Yi Zichen. You sure know how to think. Yi Rong knocked Yi Zichen's head. If you could focus a bit more on cultivation, then you wouldn't be just a diviner right now. Heh! Yi Zichen laughed dumbly. Yi Zichen scratched his head again, then licked his lip. Mom, since you already know, I won't pretend anymore. I would like to ask if you would allow me to. In truth, I don't really want to agree, said Yi Rong. I know you're on good terms with that child, but you have to remember that you're the Emperor Star. The Emperor Star's starlight is more important than anything else. But I know what you're going to say. That's why I'm so hesitant. I need to think things over carefully. Although I trust that the Hermit Emperor wouldn't lie to me with false information, I still need time to confirm the veracity of his words. In the meantime, just rest well. Got it. Yi Rong gently caressed Yi Zichen's face, her eyes brimming with warmth. You have to know that I'm doing everything for your own good. All right, I won't disturb you any longer. But it's getting late, so if you have anything to say to them, wait until tomorrow morning. Don't be fooled by how lively you look right now, but your injuries are serious. I can't guarantee that the starlight will be able to heal you. It's a hidden illness. All right. Yi Zichen watched Yi Rong leave. Just as she was about to leave, he suddenly knit his brows. Mom, I have something to ask you. Yi Zichen turned around. I went to the Shui family's dungeon today. There's a demon expert locked up on the 3rd floor. What's wrong? The demon race and Yao race often send people to the sacred lands of the Divine Mountains to spy on information. Many captured demons and Yao are imprisoned in those sacred lands, said Yi Rong. I know that. Yi Zichen nodded, but his brows furrowed even deeper. It's just that this demon expert is a bit terrifying? What do you mean? I went to the dungeon because I wanted to lock up Bai Yulong for hurting Shui Mo. I wanted to find him a fiercer neighbor and torture him as much as I could. After looking around a few times, he still couldn't find a suitable place. Coincidentally, the captive general-level demon expert on the 2nd floor also said that the people on the 3rd floor were more terrifying, so he wanted to go there. Take a look at the floor. But when I stepped on the stairs to the 3rd floor, Yi Zichen replayed everything that had happened, from the fear and trembling in his heart to his eventual escape. As she listened, Yi Rong knit her brows. You've seen your fair share of emperors, and many of them are hostile towards you. The auras the people on the 3rd floor emitted weren't hostile at all, yet you felt like. I'm curious as to why someone like that was locked up in the Shui family. Perhaps that's a bit disrespectful to Great Emperor Shuiyang, but I'm fairly certain that even Great Emperor Shuiyang might not be a match for him, much less capture him alive and lock him up in the dungeon, said Yi Zichen. It's strange indeed. Yi Rong nodded in agreement. But this is the Shui family's business. We have no right to interfere, so it's best if you don't get involved. Alright. Yi Zichen's mood was somewhat downcast. Yi Rong couldn't bear to see him like this. If you're curious, I can send someone to investigate the demon's identity. But even if the Society of Saints and the Shui family are on relatively good terms, I can't investigate too deeply, and the information I can gather is limited. If you really want to know, you'll have to start with the Shui family, but you absolutely can't let Shuiyang know. Do you understand what I'm saying? Understood. Delight flashed across Yi Zichen's face. Her intentions were clear. Yi Rong supported his investigation, but he had to be careful. In the end, this was the Shui family's business. It was highly likely that the demon would cause a series of problems that no one knew about. If the Shui family found out, they might hold a grudge. When she saw Yi Zichen smile, Yi Rong couldn't help but smile as well. Hurry up and get some rest. Don't play with your phone anymore, got it? With that, Yi Rong pushed open the door and left. Chapter 1448. On the Central Divine Mountain. Ever since Spirit City had been destroyed, cultivators had flooded into the other cities of the Central Divine Mountain. Among them, Heavenly God City was the most crowded. The rent for inns and hotels in the city had risen by 40% in a single day. Over the past few days, large numbers of people had sought refuge with the local factions. Have you found out? In the Shao family's secret territory, the Lightning Emperor, Shao Ting, sat cross-legged on the ground. His surroundings were filled with light and the power of lightning. The void above his head was also filled with a heavy color. From time to time, lightning would fall from the void above. I've found out. Uncle An's back was stooped as he stood outside the lightning. Spirit City was destroyed. These people are all its survivors. Spirit City? Shao Ting furrowed his brows. News of this has been locked down, so it took us a while to get the news. According to our subordinates, Spirit City was destroyed because of Bai Mingli's self-detonation. Bai Mingli self-detonated? That means Xian Ji and the others went to Spirit City because of the Bai family, right? Yes, nodded Uncle Lin. When Xiao Ting heard this, he walked down from the lightning platform. As he did, numerous lightning pythons flicked their tongues. He narrowed his eyes and walked to a seat on the lightning platform. He pulled a cigar-like object from his spatial ring, lit it, and took a drag. Has the God Emperor made any moves? He'd raised the Bai family himself. If Xian Ji and the others forced Bai Mingli to self-detonate, the Bai family would surely be destroyed. Is he definitely going to act against the profound pavilion? Asked Xiao Ting. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't think the God Emperor wants to deal with them either, said Uncle Lin, as expected. Zhou Wu is far-sighted and resilient, praised the Lightning Emperor with a cold smile. However, his eyes were filled with mockery. He knew exactly why Zhou Wu had calmed down. There was nothing wrong with his actions at a time like this. On the other hand, if he'd handled things beautifully, he wouldn't have attacked the profound pavilion. Instead, he'd gone out of his way to repair his relationship with them. This was a terrible move. But when he considered Zhou Wu's current situation, even if it was a terrible move, he had to brace himself and continue. Even the Yuqi and Huangfu clans were a far cry from the Divine Mountains and Sacred Land's strength. Among his subordinates, the Shun family was the only one he could use. In the near future, he would definitely make contact with the Divine Mountains that had yet to take sides. How are our neighbors? Asked Xiao Ting. It's still in its embryonic form. It's not worth mentioning. There are almost no experts in the Upheaval Alliance. Xiao Yan is busy managing the Upheaval Alliance's affairs, said Uncle Lin. What a useless son. Is there any news about Yang Jian? He went with Yi Zichen to the Bai family. He hasn't returned yet, said Uncle Lin. That's right. That brat only has so many capable subordinates, so it's only natural to bring him along. Wait for him to come back and continue the contact. With that, Xiao Ting closed his eyes. Unexpectedly, Uncle Lin still hadn't left. Xiao Ting opened his eyes. Is there anything else? There's an ambitious person outside who wants to join our Xiao family, Uncle Lin said. Can't you handle it? He specifically said that he wanted to see you in person. This old servant tested his skills and found that it was worth it for His Majesty to go in person. Really? Xiao Ting's interest was piqued. Let's go take a look. As expected, Yi Zichen obeyed Yi Rong's wishes. After she left, he rested and didn't even touch his phone. The next morning, when he awoke from his slumber, he didn't hesitate to add Yang Jian and the Great Sage into the group. The two of them also added Pu Jingwan and Xiao Yumei. Invincible, adorable beauty. What are you doing? Are you still asleep? Only idealism. Are you a pig? You slept for so long and you still haven't woken up? Invincible, adorable beauty. Don't be so heartless. We all thought that you would pull us back at night, so we waited until dawn. Invincible, adorable beauty. You can ask them if you don't believe me. Ultimate charmer. Okay. Erlingshin. Big Sister Park's words are true, but it's a bit exaggerated to say that I'm not fully awake. They were all ruler-level cultivators, so they would be full of energy after a short rest. Monkey King, I Lai Sun, feel refreshed. Invincible, adorable beauty? What do you two mean by this? Erlingshin, Monkey King, Erlingshin, Big Sister Park, please calm down. Monkey King, Big Sister Park, please spare me. Yi Zichen was in a good mood as soon as he entered the group and started acting like a clown. After arguing with them in the group for a while, he finally got to the point of inviting them into the group. Only idealism. I haven't told you about last night. Let's continue. Invincible, adorable beauty. Serious face, ultimate charmer. What's up? Erlingshin, go on. Monkey King, you'd better put it in a more general way. We have a guy with an undeveloped brain. If you say it too generally, he won't understand. Evil smile, Erlingshin, I feel like you're hinting at me. Sinister, only idealism. Knock on the blackboard, Stop messing around. I'm going to get down to business. When the others saw the message in the group, they all revealed serious expressions. Not long later, Yi Zichen sent a message in the group. Only idealism. After the Bai family's massacre, we're completely at odds with the God Emperor. Ultimate charmer. That's only natural. The Bai family is his right-hand man. If the Bai family is wiped out, it won't just be us. The Sea of Innocence and the other major powers will also bear a grudge against us. Erlingshin, I'm not a good person in the first place. I'll become an enemy sooner or later. Invincible adorable beauty. You can't say that. Previously, although we would become enemies in the future, at that time, everything was just tacit. This time, the conflict is out in the open. Monkey King. Yi, are you worried about Wei Jie and the others in Heavenly God City? He never would have guessed the great sage would be the first to get to the point. He'd mentioned the Bai family because he was worried about the Upheaval Alliance. The Upheaval Alliance's headquarters were located in Heavenly God City. Their original goal was to put pressure on the Lightning Emperor's estate, but no one expected things to change so quickly. Because of Xue Mo's heavy injuries, they destroyed the Bai family and instilled a grudge with the God Emperor. Heavenly God City was God Emperor Zhou Wu's territory, and the Upheaval Alliance didn't have many experts. Only Xiao Yan was in charge. Invincible adorable beauty. I almost forgot. The Upheaval Alliance is based in Heavenly God City. That's the God Emperor's territory. Erlingshin, we pissed off the God Emperor pretty badly. The Upheaval Alliance won't, Ultimate Charmer. I don't think so. Besides, if the God Emperor really was going to deal with the Upheaval Alliance, we'd definitely hear about it. Invincible adorable beauty. It's hard to say. The Upheaval Alliance's elites are all gone. The only ones left are Earth Supremes. Heavenly God City is the God Emperor's territory. Destroying the Upheaval Alliance would be as easy as turning over his hand. Monkey King, I'll go ask. Only idealism. No need. I already asked. Before he added Yang Jian and the Great Sage into the group, he'd already gotten in touch with Wei Jie and found out that nothing had happened to the Upheaval Alliance or the Profound Pavilion. He relaxed a little, but he didn't mention anything about his grudge with the God Emperor. If the God Emperor could tolerate the Upheaval Alliance, then he naturally wouldn't break this delicate balance. However, no one could be sure what the God Emperor was secretly plotting. He had to be on guard. Only idealism. I'm going to tell Yang Jian and the Great Sage to go back. Erlingshin, go back? Monkey King, then what are you going to do? Only idealism. This is the Sea of Innocence. I won't be in any danger. If you two go back, you'll just have to put on an act. Chapter 1449. The Monkey King spoke out the thoughts of the others in the group. Becoming a spy in the Lightning Emperor's estate was extremely dangerous. Earlier, Yang Jian had just followed Yi Zichen to the Bai family's estate to wreak havoc. As soon as the Bai family was destroyed, he sought refuge with the Xiao family. No matter how you looked at it, this was not a good time. Invincible adorable beauty, Yi Zichen, you can't rush this. Xiao Ting is a wily old fox. It's in his nature to be suspicious. Monkey King, old son, think so too. Ultimate Charmer, what are you guys talking about? Why did you mention Xiao Ting? Invincible adorable beauty. I can't explain it clearly, but it's a crazy idea. Ultimate Charmer, oh. Pu Jingwan and the Great Sage, who knew the inside story, expressed their concern. Yang Jian, however, remained silent, not saying a word. Yi Zichen pursed his lips and smiled when he saw the messages in the group. Only idealism. Of course, I'm not stupid enough to let Yang Jian join the Xiao family. Everything needs to be done in an orderly manner. I understand that. Monkey King, what about you? Only idealism. We have to let them see the conflict erupt, right? The two of you going back early is just to push things along. At the same time, it's to ensure the Upheaval Alliance's safety. Only idealism. Secondly, we also need to thank the Bai family for chopping off my left arm. Invincible, adorable beauty. You want to. No way, you want to use this to make the Xiao family trust Yang Jian? Idealism. Isn't it good to seize all the favorable conditions for us? Ultimate charmer. My head is spinning. Invincible, adorable beauty. I'll explain it to you later. Erlingshin. Then the monkey and I will leave immediately? Only idealism. Before that, find Shui Bebe for me. I want to get some information from her. Monkey King, we don't know her. You can just look for her. The moment he sent the message, the Monkey King immediately remembered that Yi Zichen had already been locked up. Otherwise, he wouldn't have contacted them through the group chat. Erlingshin, let's try. The group chat ended there. Pu Jingwan, who was in the same room as Xiao Yumei, went to look for Xiao Yumei and told her what had happened. Yang Jian and the great sage immediately set out to meet up with Shui Bebe. They were not familiar with the Shui family, so a chance encounter was the only way they could carry out their plan. Everyone in the group did their own things. Only Yi Zichen sat in front of the window and looked at the flower bed outside. He tried to push the door open, but Yi Rong's restriction was still there. All he could do was wait in his room for Yang Jian and the great sage to find Shui Bebe. I'm a poor bird in a cage now. Looking at the flower bed outside through the window, he could vaguely see the shadows of a few flower fairies flying above the flower bed. Yi Zichen sighed. He wanted to enjoy the peace, but at that moment, his right eye began to swell. In the blink of an eye, there was a loud buzzing sound in his head, and his heart thumped. The sharp pain in his chest made him frown subconsciously, but this pain was just a slight greeting to him. In just a few breaths, his face turned pale, and his phone fell to the ground. His vision gradually became blurry, and breathing became difficult as if someone was strangling him. This sudden turn of events caused Yi Zichen to panic. He wanted to send a message outside, but the room's restrictions completely blocked him. His only hope was to use his hand. Even though the phone was right in front of him, he couldn't reach it no matter what. In the end, his vision went black, and he slammed into the ground, unconscious. In the blink of an eye, half a day passed. Pu Jingwan sent Yi Zichen a few flirtatious messages from time to time, but to her disappointment, Yi Zichen ignored her completely. She found this to be incredibly boring. Everyone else was running into Shui Bebe. Only she sat atop a tree and scanned the area with her divine sense. Ding dong. Pu Jingwan's phone suddenly buzzed with a notification. She took it out and saw that there was a new message. Erlingshin. Hey, are you looking for me? Erlingshin, your method of communication is so strange, but it looks pretty interesting. Yang Jian's message appeared in the group, but the way he spoke was vastly different from Yang Jian's. Monkey King? Invincible, adorable beauty. Is this Shui Bebe? Ultimate charmer. Found her. Erlingshin. Aha, it's me. Which one of them is Yi Zichen? Shui Bebe tilted her head. Yang Jian was standing right next to her. In order to increase their chances of running into Shui Bebe, the great sage, Pu Jingwan and Xiao Yumei had each assigned their own areas of activity. However, in the end, Yang Jian ran into her. Yang Jian glanced at the group chat. None of them. Didn't you say he was looking for me? Hurry up and tell him to come out. I'm busy, said Shui Bebe proudly, wrinkling her nose. Yang Jian took his phone, opened the group chat, and Yi Zichen. Hey, he should be out soon, said Yi Zichen. It's that simple? Your method of communication is so convenient. You don't even need to use your divine sense. All you have to do is type a few words. Shui Bebe's eyes brimmed with curiosity. Then how did you send this message? I didn't use my divine sense or divine power. How did it get out? How did it get out? That. Yang Jian was stumped. He didn't know how to explain. Look at you, you don't look like you know the answer to a high-end question like that. To his surprise, Shui Bebe mocked his slight hesitation. He clenched his fists and glared at her, but Shui Bebe had already turned away, crossed her arms and ignored him. Yang Jian, you have to hold it in. She's just a little kid. Don't lower yourself to her level. Yang Jian couldn't help but comfort himself. At that moment, Shui Beibei turned back to him. Hey, didn't you say Yi Zichen would come out? Why hasn't he said anything yet? Are you lying to me? You're not the kind of pervert who likes cute little girls like me, are you? I'm telling you, this is the Shui family estate. You'd better behave. Why were all kids like this nowadays? Yang Jian was speechless. He rolled his eyes, snatched the phone, and scrolled through the messages. Shui Beibei sent a few more messages, telling Yi Zichen to hurry up and come out. The others tagged Yi Zichen several times, but he didn't respond at all. Erling Shin, why hasn't Yi Zi replied yet? It's been an entire morning, hasn't it? Monkey King, Yang Jian? Erling Shin, it's me. Invincible adorable beauty. It's been so long and there's still no response. Did something happen? Chapter 1450. As soon as the message appeared, Pu Jingwan's divine awareness instantly located Yi Rong. She explained the situation, then notified the others in the group. Yang Jian and the great sage rushed over. By the time Yi Rong arrived, 7 stars had appeared on the roof. The stars linked together like chains, locking down the entire room. Xiao Yumei couldn't help but understand. No wonder she couldn't shake the seal in the slightest, no matter how hard she tried. Not even the slightest ripple had appeared. She hadn't expected Yi Rong to use the power of 7 stars in order to trap Yi Zichen. I say, is that really necessary? Is that your son or a criminal? The power of 7 stars. Impressive. Xianji arrived with Yi Rong. When she saw the 7 stars locking down the entire room, she couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. Even if she was worried Yi Zichen would run off and cause trouble, there was no need to use the 7-star lock to trap him. 7 stars, release. Yi Rong shouted in a low voice and shattered the chain. The restriction in front of the room also disappeared. Yi Rong immediately pushed open the door and entered. The others followed. Within the room, Yi Zichen lay unconscious on the floor. The clothes on his upper body were undone. He's dressed rather casually. While everyone else was nervous, Xianji paced around the room, speechless. He's just unconscious. Let's take him to bed. After confirming that Yi Zichen was fine and had merely fainted, Yi Rong relaxed. Yang Jian and the great sage carried him to bed, then walked over to Yi Rong and Xianji's side. Who found out Yi Zichen was unconscious? Asked Yi Rong. It was me. Xiao Yumei walked over. They'd ed Yi Zichen several times, but hadn't gotten a response. Worried, she hurried over and saw Yi Zichen lying on the ground through the window. Did you sense anything wrong on your way here? Asked Yi Rong. No. Xiao Yumei shook her head. Ask her? Isn't that pointless? All her attention is on your precious son. When she saw him unconscious, how could she be in the mood to pay attention to anything else? Said Xianji. Xiao Yumei blushed. Xianji really was an understanding person. In truth, even if she'd sensed something was wrong, she hadn't paid much attention. When she saw Yi Zichen unconscious, she'd panicked. Auntie Yi, why are you asking? Yang Jian knit his brows. Someone was here, said Xianji. Someone was here. Yi Rong nodded. There were no signs that the facilities in the room had been touched, and there were no signs that anyone had been here. However, the smell in the room could not be deceived. Even though the other party had done it perfectly, he could still vaguely feel the remnants of the smell in the corner of the room. Someone was here? She had personally witnessed the 7-star lock's defense. In order to enter the room as soon as possible, it could be said that she spared no effort in launching attacks. The commotion she caused was quite large, but she still could not break the 7-star lock. Now, Yi Rong and Xianji were saying that someone had been here. How had they managed to sneak into the room without Yi Zichen's warning, then leave without a sound? Putting aside everything else, the Shui family of the Sea of Innocence wasn't a place they could come and go as they pleased. Monkey and I will go after them. Yang Jian and the great sage focused their gazes and prepared to leave, but Xian Ji stopped them. What are you chasing for? They're long gone. Besides, if you go after them, do you even know who to chase? You still haven't determined their aura, have you? When they heard that, Yang Jian and the great sage stopped. Xian Ji crossed her arms and looked at Yi Rong. They managed to enter without breaking your 7-star lock. It seems they're in the same line of work as you. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At that moment, they heard the sound of several people flying through the air. Shui Yang and the other great emperors walked in. What's wrong? Just now we sensed an especially strong fluctuation of divine power. Xiao Yumei's earlier commotion had drawn the great emperors here. Yi Rong glanced at Shui Yang, fury flashing in her eyes. Shui Yang froze. He looked at Xian Ji, wanting to know what was going on. Do you know that there's a loophole in your Shui family's defenses? Asked Xian Ji. How could that be possible? Although the Shui family didn't invite retainers or other clansmen, the entire mountain is protected by seals left behind by me and 2 other extremely powerful elders. Even a grain of sand would be detected by us, said Shui Yang confidently. If I say there's a loophole, then there's a loophole. Xian Ji glanced at the unconscious Yi Zichen. Look, the victim's already out. Shui Yang and the other great emperors' expressions froze, especially Shui Yang and Zhao Qianling. They were all counting on Yi Zichen's starlight to save Shui Mo's life, but now he was unconscious. Based on Xian Ji's words, he'd been ambushed. The Big Dipper. There's no need to explain, interrupted Yi Rong. I didn't take Zichen directly back to the Star Altar. Instead, I followed you to the Sea of Innocence. That's because I trusted your Shui family. Now that this has happened, I'm disappointed. That shouldn't be the case. Shui Yang furrowed his brows. It's been at least 6 hours since Zichen fainted, and your Shui family hasn't sensed anything at all. Of course, I'm also at fault here, but I shouldn't be blaming you here. But at the end of the day, this is the Shui family, your territory. The entire Sea of Innocence belongs to you. Under the surveillance of the Shui family. Yi Rong wanted to say something but stopped. She was furious. But when she thought about how she'd left the 7-star lock outside, and how someone had still managed to sneak into his room without him noticing, putting Yi Zichen in grave danger, she couldn't blame Shui Yang and the others too much. I'll go investigate right away, said Shui Yang. What are you going to use to check? Yi Rong couldn't help but get angry again, but she quickly suppressed the fire in her heart. That's enough, said Xian Ji, trying to smooth things over. The silver lining is that they don't want to take Zichen's life. However, we still have no way of knowing their true intentions. Whether or not they'll come back after this, we have no way of knowing either. Them? The great emperors quickly noticed the seriousness of Xian Ji's words. It wasn't just one person. There were at least 3. Why else do you think the Lord of the Big Dipper would be so angry? Shui Yang, your Shui family's defenses really are flawed. Otherwise, there's no way so many people with ulterior motives would have shown up without you noticing, and no one would have reported them. I suggest you forget it. Why should I care so much? That's your Shui family's business, said Xian Ji hesitantly. However, Xian Ji's hesitation, and her choice of words just now,